Hello, everybody. I believe we're good. We're live, and you can hear us and stuff.
Hopefully,
we have a very interesting show for you today. As you can tell, our layout's just a little bit different and stuff, and that is because we have a pinball machine. Yeah, we've got our very special guest, the No Fear Pinball Machine, with us today. But no, we're live. Actually, we all of us happen to be traveling towards GDQ or near enough the area where we were able to do this show live from my apartment, basically. So excuse the kind of hacky setup we got a little bit, but I hope you guys enjoy this. It'll allow us to have kind of an easier discourse and everything. My name is JHobz. To my left is Darkman.
Hello.
We've got Frozen, our other usual host, on the far couch there. And HalfCoordinated is our special guest today. Welcome, Half.
Thank you, Hobbs.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we're going to have Half here the whole time because it's a live show and we didn't want to make him sit in the closet.
It'd be kind of weird.
Hey,
So we'll take our break to kick out the guest. Go over in that room.
Yeah.
See you later.
Okay. Sounds reasonable.
But Half, you're running a game coming up at AGDQ in just like a week now, right?
Yeah.
So you're running Semblance.
Semblance, yes.
So that's the game that we're going to be talking about today. I keep looking at that webcam instead of the one right in
There's
front
so
of me.
many webcams. I do the same.
There are a lot. That's true.
There are a lot of webcams here, but hi, everybody. This is the webcam we should be looking at.
that webcam is for the pinball machine, Hobbs.
Yeah, only pinball.
I hope-
Can we actually cut out the rest of us from there? Just pinball.
I hope you're ready for us to be this off topic the entire show because this is what it's going to look like.
It's so much easier in person.
It's very nice. But no, Half is going to be telling us a little bit about the Semblance world record. Who actually, you are the world record owner for that, so yeah.
Owner, yeah.
Very recently.
You own it.
Yeah, you own the world
It's
record.
like a trophy.
No.
Oh.
But before that, as usual, we're going to kind of jump into some news and stuff. If you haven't caught the show before, if maybe the idea of a live show enticed you to come click, thanks. But basically, this is just a talk show about speedrunning. We like to kind of give you a little bit of a rundown of the news that has happened since the last show a little bit, and then maybe talk about some interesting topics, and then we're going to be breaking down the Semblance world record, talking a little bit about the history of that run, and also where the possible time saves and places you're never going to save time are as well. So let's get into kind of our first news topic, I guess. Darkman, if you want to kick us off there.
Sure. So first thing first, for those who may not be familiar, there is a marathon called RTA in Japan. You can kind of guess where that marathon takes place. This was a live in-person event in Japan. You guys are smart. So this actually just concluded on the 31st, so not too long ago. 5 days of speedrunning in Japan. A bunch of runners gather from all across. Even some foreigners. They come from away from Japan. They come from I believe we had a Yagamov. He was there from I believe he's from Sweden, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
sounds right.
Yeah. So. They even bring. I remember like last year they had Kevin DDR from America, so they even get some foreigners there, which is awesome. So basically just a for fun speedrunning marathon. I gather all the Japanese people from all across Japan, just having fun, playing games, and just having a great time. So I don't know if any of you guys had a chance to check out any of the event throughout the week. Did you have any thoughts about it? Or
I got to tune in just a little bit. It's cool to me that they actually stream it on Twitch.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times, for people who aren't aware, Japanese streamers tend to stream to Nico Video, which is a Japanese site, which is why that makes sense. But they actually streamed it to Twitch as well. I don't know if they were doing
I think that they
dual
also
stream.
had a Nico stream.
So that was cool because they knew that there are actually a fair number of Westerners who enjoy watching it and stuff. And they got it on Twitch. I think it's their third year,
Yes,
right?
that's correct.
Yeah, it's the third event and only seems to keep growing. And I mean, we've talked about it before, but we're super happy to always see new events pop up, and especially ones that recur after year and really look like they're trying to get better with each one. And that certainly seems like what RTA Japan
More events, more speedruns, more people coming together, more speedruns. I mean, it just grows the community, and that's what we love to see.
Yep.
Half, did you get a chance to look at RTA Japan much at all?
I'm very sad that I didn't know what was going on until this minute.
We could have told you about that, huh?
Because
We discussed it right after you dropped them.
I had no idea what's happening. I've watched the previous years and loved those, so I'm sure it was great.
Does it normally happen at this time of year?
Yes, it is usually around the end of December. I think this is the first time I've had it this late in December.
Okay.
But generally it is towards the later half of December.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah, and I guess that brings up a valid point. We have Half on as our guest. He's going to be here the whole time. We have not told him anything about what we're going to be talking about, so he's going to be the fresh eyes, the fresh perspective.
We did tell him we're talking about Semblance, though.
Yes.
Beyond that, no.
Other than that, though, we were just like, hey, I hope you're ready to talk about random speedrunning things.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good.
There we go. All right, what else we got in the news, Derek, man?
So moving on. So this might be something that HobZ might be a little bit familiar with. This marathon called RPG Limit Break. Have you heard of that?
Yeah. It's a real little thing that it's online, right? Yeah, no, RPG Limit Break, awesome event that's held in May. It's been going since 2015. Now and stuff, and it's a pretty awesome event. What about it?
So what happened, HobZ? I believe they, I believe you were supposed to tell me about this the other day, and you just happened to, conveniently miss out on this. And something happened. It was a really big event, and you know what? I never heard anything from you, a staff member of the RPG Limit Break crew.
So they announced the dates for RPG Limit Break. Which are going to be May 5th through 11th, if I'm remembering that correctly.
That's correct.
And the reason I forgot to mention it is because, like Darkman was alluding to, I'm staff at RPG Limit Break, help out with some stuff, especially on the technical end, and thus I knew the dates and forgot that they were being announced, that other people didn't know them yet. But May 5th through 11th is going to be the week this year, and I love RPG Limit Break because it really shows how you can take a niche of a niche, right? Like speedrunning is already kind of not this huge thing when it comes to the entire context of gaming, and then you could take that and boil it down to just RPGs and still get a fantastic event. It benefits the National Alliance on Mental Illness, which is a super awesome cause, and it's just really fun. Who here has actually been to an RPG Limit Break?
You're the
Any
only
of you?
one.
Am I really the only one?
Yeah.
You're the only one.
I'm thinking of planning on it this year, but haven't gone.
So
before.
here's the thing: FF4 Free Enterprise. It's an RPG.
That's true.
Nier Automata. Just get you back on that again, and we'll call Putt Putt an RPG.
All right.
Sounds good.
Easy. I'll just play in a break.
Yeah, we'll get some humongous entertainment games going on as RPGs. But no, it's a fantastic event. I highly recommend when registration opens, which will be, I believe, in February. To anyone who gets the chance, it happens out in Utah. Anyone who's going to have the chance to go, please go. It's super fun. Everybody gets to hang out and everything. And there's always a lot of board games that go on, and kind of a lot of the same stuff that you see at GDQs, but on a smaller, more intimate scale. And it's just really cool. I have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. And just a reminder, if anybody happens to be interested in submitting to the event in RPG, the game submissions open January 19th, and they last till the 27th. So if you're kind of RPG speedrunner, you should definitely try to submit to the marathon.
And I'm working on the website for those game submissions. And, I got to finish that.
So if it breaks, contact HalfCoordinated.
Yeah, if it breaks, just send angry tweets at me. That'll be fine.
All right. So moving on to another event that may be near and dear to HobZ's heart. This is, since we haven't had enough news of this game already, we're just going to put more news We're going to put more news on top of that. And it's Celeste. I don't know if anybody's heard of that. I don't know if HobZ, have you heard of that
Here's
game,
the thing.
Celeste?
I don't think that. Yeah, but I don't think that you've heard of this game or you've ever mentioned it before. So can you tell me a little bit more about this game?
These guys like to make fun of me because we brought up Celeste on every show, I think, so far.
I think so.
But I have not been the one that's always been saying,
Sure,
let's bring up Celeste again. It's just so happens that the last several times we've done shows, there's been interesting news surrounding Celeste. So that's cool. But what is the interesting news?
This one is actually pretty cool. So they announced a $5,000 speedrunning tournament of Celeste. So it's in a league format. It's going to be starting, I believe, after AGDQ. It's going to be happening for a few months. It's going to be, an online event that might have a little bit of interesting things afterwards. Might have something else to say about that. We'll save that for a minute. But yeah, it's going to be a league with a $5,000 minimum prize pool, they said. They even got the support of the developers. The developers tweeted out this league. So yeah, it's a pretty big deal to see that big of a prize pool associated with a speedrunning tournament.
Especially for an indie game, right? I think the biggest prize pool we've seen is Twitch Rivals. The Twitch Rivals Speedrun, Mega Man 11.
Yeah.
And that was, 10,000, 20,000?
It's 25,000.
25,000. So, and that's Twitch putting that on,
Twitch
right?
and Mega Man 11, so it's
exactly.
Capcom,
this
right?
is an indie game. You're a big fan of indie games.
I am.
How do you feel about this thing?
I mean, I think it's great. They're putting that together. You say it's an indie game, but it's also within speedrunning, it's one of the most active speed games there is.
It's a phenomenon.
So there's, it might be the top, of active runners. It might be the top. I can't remember.
It's up there.
It was for a good while. So I think that's actually pretty awesome that they're putting that together. You could say some misgivings about the format, but that's another topic altogether. The fact they're doing this event is good.
Yeah, cool. Very cool to see more coming from GSA.
Yes,
I believe,
the
right?
Global Speedrunning Association. They've
Yeah.
been kind of definitely making waves. I feel like last year. I have to say last year now. 2019.
yeah.
Right. Oh man, it is. Happy New Year, everybody.
They've been doing a lot of Super Mario 64 related tournaments and Super Mario Odyssey tournaments, and now to see them kind of break into other formats is pretty cool. Speaking of the Global Speedrunning Association, I kind of had to tie in, save a little bit of nugget of that Celeste tournament information because. On top of announcing the league, they also announced a new live event called PACE. I don't think they actually said what that stands for, but maybe they did and I just missed it.
Like the pace that you're on, speedrunning pace.
Yeah, but they had it
But
in
it's all
caps,
capitals.
So
Yeah, I don't know what it
Emphasis.
stands for.
all right, you're right. So GSA announced PACE, which is a live in-person speedrunning event. So they're gonna culminate the end of the Celeste league. They're gonna have the finals in person. They're also gonna have a few other tournaments, such as Super Mario 64 and Super Mario Odyssey. Hey, look, I already mentioned those. And this will kind of plan to turn it into a little event too. They're gonna have some panels. They're gonna have meet and greets and things like that.
Okay.
So this is gonna happen in April. I haven't announced a specific date yet.
Oh wow, so that's pretty soon.
Yeah, it's coming up in 3 months. So what do you guys think? A new live event?
Going back to what we said before, more events the better.
Yeah.
The only problem I have with it is that I can't go to all the events. I just can't A, afford it, or B, vacation time. Just won't be able to.
Here's what I'm curious about. Do you know if it's going to be in Europe? Is it going to be European? Because I know a lot of the GSA coordinators are European. I don't know if it's going to be in America or in Europe.
They haven't said anything yet.
Okay.
So we'll just have to
That'd
tune
be
in.
interesting to see. So as much of a fan I am of being able to go to more events in the U.S. because I live in the U.S., I would actually really like to see this one go to Europe because right now they've got ESA and not much else. When
ESA and DreamHack events,
Yes.
but
When it
I don't
comes
know if those really count.
And there's plenty of other online things that are being broadcast from Europe throughout the year, but not a whole lot of live events in Europe. So I think it'd be really cool.
Though I will say there are some events that are up and coming. There's that big UK event. I don't remember the name off the top of my head, but I know they've kind of been doing a lot of stuff. There's also a big event in Germany that also happens. So there's definitely things that are coming up, just not, I would say, as prominent as obviously the ESAs and DreamHack. People know those things, but they don't quite know the other things. So I'm hoping that if it does happen in Europe, PACE could be that huge name to kind of complement the other existing things that are already in Europe.
Yeah.
Also, Speed Gaming kind of tried this before too, where they were going to have a tournament
Yes.
culminating in a cash prize and a live event.
Yes.
And unfortunately, that fell through, and I was super bummed when that happened because it was actually
Proud about that, yeah.
very close to me. I was absolutely hoping to attend that,
Yeah.
and so it's really neat to see another group try it, and hopefully it goes well for them.
Right.
This just kind of lead into our next segment.
I guess.
Yeah. So, for those who weren't here last episode, we introduced a new segment called Tough Questions, where we want to kind of have a little bit of discourse around a question that is either a little controversial or just harder to answer than it seems so from the outside. And our big question this week, I guess, is will money ruin speedrunning forever? That's kind of the thing.
So Half had no idea what the question was going to be. So
I'm
now
glad I didn't say any more. When I mentioned it before.
I was hoping you would because I was immediately ready to transition. Completely ready to just go, speaking of which, we have a tough question.
But yeah, the idea of this, and I don't know, maybe if there's room on it, Hannah might be able to put it on the screen too, just so people can see. But again, that's kind of a clickbaity question, right? Will money ruin speedrunning forever? But there is a lot of legitimate concern around introducing monetary prizes into speedrunning. And generally, just to kind of give a little bit of a recap, is kind of the biggest concern usually comes down to the fact that speedrunning is unlike most other sports or esports or anything like that, because right now speedrunning is such a collaborative effort from entire communities of games, where if somebody gets a new world record, and you had the world record previously, you're right there cheering them along with everyone else most of the time. Like it's not this big battle of like, oh man, they're my rival and they're way better than me, and it's the worst. I gotta beat them to show I'm better. It's everybody's finding new strats. Nobody hides strats. They always share it with each other, with the community and everything, because the whole goal is to really come together to get that game as as like optimized as you can, and just obviously have a lot of fun.
It's collaboratively competitive is the way I've always put it. You are competing with each other. Pretty much all of us want to be the best and to get world record if we possibly can, but we're not going to put ourselves at an advantage purposefully and try to withhold strategies. And in fact, it's pretty hard to actually withhold a strategy, because in order for your world record to be verified, they have to understand it fully. So you would have to basically explain what you did and how that wasn't just cheating.
So the reason money obviously can change this is that now, like what you were saying, you could hold a strategy, but the thing is then you're the only one who knows that you have the new PB or the new world record or whatever, right? There's no big reason to hold that unless like you were 2 days away from a GDQ or something, you just wanted to show it on stream for fun. But now with the introduction of more tournaments and stuff that have money related to them, there's the theory that like, oh, somebody might get a new world record offline, hide the strats that they found and used, because they can win money with it now, and that would obviously be an incentive. How are you guys, like, what do you guys feel about that? You think that's a major worry, maybe a little overhyped, underhyped?
I want to hear what Half has to say, because he seems like he's ready to go.
Yeah, sure. I'm so ready.
Very prepared. Had a lot of time.
Prepared. Yeah, had a long time to think, like a whole 3 minutes.
We gave you enough time
to think about it. So I do think it is definitely a concern. It depends on like the amount of money that is at stake and how competitive the game is, how close runners are, what strats are left to be found sort of within that game, because there could be different things. So it's going to vary from community to community too, just how likely they are to just withhold something to be able to get that record for money purposes instead of for hobby enjoyment purposes, which is basically what we do now. I haven't really answered the question at all yet.
No, I think you have.
No, yeah, that was.
But
yeah. Like, we don't necessarily have to answer the question.
We don't think that we're experts at this, and think that we have the correct answer by any means. We just are discussing it and trying to figure out, well, what are the different sides, and is there anything that we can think of that can help, or just in general discussing it, discourse, as we say.
And on that note, like, I'll kind of give somewhat of a counter argument to that. Not so much a counter argument, but I do think it's a concern, and it's one that should always be at the forefront of any tournament organizer's mind, or whether it be a tournament or some other kind of event that has a monetary prize when it comes to speedrunning. I think that that should always be a concern, but I think that there are ways that you can try to continue to foster that type of community that speedrunning has right now and still have money involved. So as an example, like a code of conduct is something that you could implement in one of these tournaments or whatever, that basically says like, hey, if you show up with a strat that no one knew about, like, you must disclose new stuff that you find, within 24 hours of the event or something like that, or within 24 hours of discovery. Obviously, that's just a rough idea, because there's a lot of problems with it.
I was about to ask how you would enforce that.
Yeah, like, I had originally had that thought as well, enforcing that people use the same strategies or routes, but that's not really feasible at all.
Well, the idea behind enforcement is that if they break that code of conduct and they show up on stream or on the live event and they have something that commentary has never seen before, that that no other runner has ever seen before, then they've broken that code of conduct and they become disqualified. That's kind of generally how code of conduct works. The only way it's enforced is once it's broken. That's kind of the only way you can generally do it in like traditional sports and stuff for the most part. And it's usually done with either fines or disqualification, that kind of thing.
Sure.
So it's just a rough idea, but it's more of like, there become issues with how granular you go with it. Like, if somebody jumps a slightly different way because it feels more comfortable to them, is that suddenly a strat they needed to disclose or whatever? You know, if somebody holds the controller in an interesting way, is that a strat you need to disclose? Yeah. We'll get into that. But overall, I think that it kind of really comes down to the people that are putting on these tournaments have to kind of take on that burden of trying to really not lose what makes speedrunning speedrunning. Because I am all for more, tournaments with cash prizes and stuff, because I think it's really cool that when anybody can take a hobby and eventually turn it into a career potentially, or even just competition is fun, and it's, these events are fun to watch, and stakes make them have a little bit more to them that are a little more interesting. And I just think that, like, I would put the burden, as somebody who has organized some tournaments and stuff, I would put the burden on everybody involved in making these things happen to constantly be reevaluating and thinking, are we like hurting speedrunning in a way? Like, how can we try to continue to foster that community that everybody loves? And as long as we constantly are thinking about that as we're making these things, then I think that we can potentially, like, continue to be fine, and those concerns can kind of hopefully melt away a little bit.
And I don't think that as of right now it's that big of a concern to it should be a thought, but it shouldn't be a concern at this point. It should be one of those, yes, maybe a code of conduct, think of a solution to it. But right now it hasn't been an issue. And in speedrunning, we work together to do these things. And hopefully that's just kind of will continue. And hopefully as speedrunners we can continue fostering that collaborative environment. And maybe it won't ever become an issue, because I hope it doesn't, since more money, more speedruns. Again, that's all I want in this. I want everybody to speedrun.
Sure.
Figure it out and just speedrun something, But
All right.
Counterpoint to that, though, it would be more speedruns of just those, or possibly just more speedruns of those games that have the money behind them.
That's true.
Good
So
point.
it could be less variety of speedruns, which, again, as an indie game runner, I find important.
Right. Well, it's like, if you've run SM64 before and you know that there's going to be an SM64 cash tournament, but you're tempted to run this other game, why would you run this other game if you need to stay sharp for this tournament, right? Like, that's kind of what you're getting at. And
Something along those lines.
Yeah. That's true. That's
All right. I've been holding quiet now.
yeah, Dark.
I think it's time I unleash
The hot
fury. This is the hot take. All right. I'm gonna go.
Hot take button.
Yeah, we need a hot take button right here. I'm gonna take a little different line here. I agree with some of the statements that are being made here, but here's my thought. For the people that say that money will ruin speedrunning, I'll say, if anything, I think your thought process is actually hurting even more than your line of thinking. Because, let's face it, the reality of the situation is you think that these cash prize tournaments are going to, ruin speedrunning forever. It's going to change the face of it. I think you're putting way too much focus, and you think there's so much impact on these tournaments. Let me tell you something. Okay, say someone hides a strat. That's a very possible thing. I'm not saying that it's not possible. Very possible. And then it happens. Somebody unleashes a new strat in that tournament. Because of that, they win the prize pool. Okay, what happens the next day? Everybody knows the strat. So guess what? You can do the exact same thing you were doing before this entire wild scenario happened. So why do you care about this? It really doesn't matter. Now, yes, there are absolutely, like some of these guys were saying, there are absolutely concerns with with some of the integrity of it and, cheating and all that. Absolutely, 100%. This is something to be concerned about. Not the money. The money is not the issue. The money, if anything, I feel like money is going to help grow speedrunning. It's going to take it in new directions, take it to new audiences that we've never seen before. It just attracts people, this new competition aspect. And I feel like the people that think that this is going to ruin speedrunning, I only think you're hurting it. You're not helping.
Yeah.
There's my hot take.
That's a hot take. That's a take.
I wouldn't even say that's a hot take so much.
Yeah, I mean, I do largely agree with you. Like, putting where to assign blame is maybe a little,
Sure.
That's the hot take part of it, right? But I do agree that, like, it kind of goes back to our tough question from last episode, where we were like, oh, when a new game-breaking glitch is found or something, what do you do with the categories? Everybody kind of has this big emotional response to a moment like that. Similar with if somebody hit a strat,
Sure.
and then you unleashed it on a stage or whatever to win prize money. There's a big immediate response of like, we must act quickly, we must with haste. Like,
Right.
This is ridiculous that this happened, but a month down the line, a week down the line, even
Is it gonna matter?
A few months. Really, it is back to like kind of everybody's got that information now. It is kind of the nature of it. I do like to think of it in terms of the Olympics. I think it's like the closest traditional sporting event that you can kind of attribute to speedrunning, because speedrunning is all about setting new records, and it's very much similar to most Olympic events. And I think that with Olympics, it's the same kind of thing. You have so many qualifiers and so many other things before you get to the final that there's no way for you to hide a faster way to run, really. Like eventually it just becomes common knowledge across everybody, and it comes down to your training, your practice, and all that, and your just talent. And so like I do agree that it's, even if it does happen occasionally, it's going to probably be rare, and also in the grand scheme of things, the grand picture, kind of be like, all right,
okay, it happened.
Yeah, I mean, I would still like to not see it happen.
Sure,
for sure.
I understand that.
Yeah,
because it is more interesting to me to look at it from the angle. Because I do think that like in other esports and stuff, it's interesting when teams like hide strategies and then they unleash it, because it's really cool to try to introduce a new way that the enemies haven't thought of counterplaying around, right? But because speedrunning is very much about your practice and how well you can execute and how well you can react to randomness and stuff like that, and the routing aspect that goes into it months and years beforehand, I think it is definitely something I wouldn't like to see, but I also don't think it would be the end of the world if it happened once.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you mentioned cheating very briefly. That's something we haven't talked a lot about. I mean, how often have you guys seen cheating show up? Because it's an issue that already does happen.
Right.
It's not. It obviously has the potential to be amplified more by monetary prizes, especially online tournaments or other events.
Sure, it could be, but it's doing something pre-recorded. We have ways around that.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of like making them do something specific. I forgot what the term is, but like jump 5 times.
Right. So fun fact, when they did the Twitch Rivals, they had a thing that they told the competitors just prior to the start of it. They told them a specific thing. They had to fire balloons in the final stage. They had to fire it like in the little corridor, the elevator corridor. That's like the easiest way to get rid of pre-recorded.
Exactly. Right. And without pre-recorded, cheating, does it exist without a pre-recorded one? I'm not entirely positive.
There are other theoretical ways, like if you had like a task that you could activate on and off. Some games, PC games especially, have ways where
increasing the FPS on a game,
right,
maybe something.
Playing
nature,
macros, like pressing a bind that does a macro instead of, which is a series of inputs that are timed specifically one after the other. Doing that instead of just playing the game naturally and stuff. Like for example, what in Momodora, which you've run before, Reverend in the Moonlight, there's like a roll jump, right? That's like pretty tight timing and difficult to do, right?
It's frame perfect, yes.
Yeah, okay. So like issuing a macro or something for that is somewhere where somebody could potentially cheat and it'd be harder to detect.
I didn't really want to talk about that because that's something that came up actually.
Did it really? Wow.
It wasn't even like out of malicious intent. So it was just more of like what someone thought was acceptable, and we didn't have a set rule around it, and so it was a whole big thing. And honestly, it's my biggest regret in speedrunning ever how I handled it as a moderator. So thanks. Thanks.
Wow. I would give you a hug, but there's so many cables.
Yeah, that would be bad.
We'll do it after the show. Yeah, there we go. But no, I mean that does kind of like, it goes back to what we were saying, that like cheating has come up before, and it will continue to happen. There are people who like something is just that like not stopping them from doing that. Like their barrier to cheating is lower than others. And yes, money might increase the frequency with which it happens, but that also means that it's going to increase our frequency of or our ability to detect it. Sure. I believe it also, and it just thinking about it more in general more often in terms of like when making rules and to hopefully avoid situations like that and stuff like that, being clearer with all of our rules and guidelines and stuff when it comes to speedrunning. So again, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I could see it being a concern early on, but I mean, every game goes through this. Like fighting games have gone through this same thing. Where money ruin it. Like not really. Those are bigger than ever, right?
You know what really excites me about more money, though? Having different kinds of tournaments.
Yeah.
More ideas will be brought up for tournaments. We can see even bigger events of like something like Cuso Grande, where it's ran by Percentia, and you're running these kind of obscure. These obscure games, completely obscure games that almost nobody has heard of, and trying to accomplish a certain goal in them in a short amount of time. It's blind racing a game, essentially. Seeing those get more frequent and different kinds of tournaments, that's awesome. Finding new ways to speedrun. Yeah.
Well, also like with Twitch Rivals and Race to the Finish from Speed Game before that, like head-to-head races of speedruns are not necessarily the best way to measure skill.
Right.
Like they're really not, especially dependent on the game. If it's a game with heavy RNG, RPGs especially suffer from this. Head-to-head races, like it's not necessarily the best way to measure skill. It might measure consistency best depending on the game, but like even then, is that the ultimate like way that you measure skill or not? So I think like you were saying, I'm really excited to see more formats pop up. I've got some ideas that I would like to see that we don't need to discuss here because we've spent a long time on this.
I do think that the Twitch Rivals format was the best yet.
Yes,
that
I completely agree.
the most accurate representation of speedrunning as a whole. Just to get that feel of actually getting in there and like getting that run out of all your
They
attempts.
basically just combined a whole bunch of people and said, play like you normally do. Speedrun for 4 hours, and whoever gets the best time after that wins. Awesome.
Wipe your timer, speedrun for 4 hours, your PB at the end of the 4 hours is what you get, right? That's absolutely the best one so far. I would agree with that too. I think that there are probably still even more that you can do, ways that you can maybe integrate multiple games into an event that aren't all super isolated in ways. That's kind of a weird thing to think about, but I just...
It's overall, I think that we're in agreement that more money, not really going to ruin speedrunning, and is benefiting.
Yeah.
Definitely won't ruin it forever. Even if it ruins it for a day, or whatever. If there's that one tournament where someone really cheated or someone was just like really didn't want to share everything, well, like Darkman was getting at, it'll pass.
And if it does ruin it for some reason, then this community isn't what I thought it was.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Most games I run have no chance of getting money behind them.
I don't know. As for me, I think that Putt could get some serious donations. I mean, come on now.
Well, there's the trick to it too. Is like if money becomes more common, then maybe you can have a specific event around smaller games, right? Like where you're doing multiple of them at once, so that you kind of do end up with a big enough audience because you've picked such a wide variety of them that you'll be able to pull in enough people. It's difficult. Obviously, it's not something we can see happening like right now, like you're saying. But you
the
never
future
know.
holds a lot. So.
Yeah. Well then.
I think that wraps up our discussion on
I
this
think so.
topic. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this tough question segment. But why don't we move on to a little run analysis? What do you guys think? Talk a little Semblance.
Sounds
Let's
good.
do it.
All right. So we have, of course, our run analysis. So every show we're gonna go through a run, kind of talk about the nitty gritty of it, introduce our guest commentator, of course, who's kind of been here for a while. So we don't really need to introduce him. He's already here. He's half-coordinated.
Hi, that is me.
So welcome, Half. So as you can kind of see, we're gonna be playing the video. We're gonna show the video of some of the clips throughout the run. Half's gonna kind of take us through it. We're gonna, of course, show the run in itself right now as we kind of introduce the game and kind of talk about this run in particular. So Half, maybe you want to kind of introduce yourself a little bit.
I was going to say, for the 2 people in chat who don't know you.
Yeah. Well, there's probably some more
3.
than that.
3.
But so I'm HalfCoordinated. I've been speedrunning for a good while now. As they're looking at the video,
Yeah, they're
right
seeing
now,
that.
correct?
They're
I'm
not
just
seeing us.
making sure.
Yeah.
As you can maybe tell, I do play like one-handed. I have to. I have a physical disability called hemiparesis, lowers feeling coordination on my right side. But that hasn't stopped me. I've speedrun a lot of games, including Semblance, which is a wonderful little puzzle platformer that focuses on deformation of platforms around you. You actually have a very simple set of controls. You can jump, dash, and reset deformations of those platforms around you. So that's all you have. You get that in the first 30 seconds, and then you just use that throughout the rest of the run.
Which, by the way, is like the coolest concept that I'd ever like seen when I saw it. Like, oh, hey, your abilities don't really change you; they interact with the environment. Like, you can change them in totally new ways. That's so cool to me.
Yeah, each world will introduce a different element that you will work with, but you're still doing the same stuff. And I thought that was really fascinating.
So, kind of talk to me a little bit about Semblance. Like, when you think about, like, puzzle games, right? Initially, I see puzzle game. I see, how could this be speedrun? It's just a puzzle. You solve the puzzle and you move on. Like, what are the intricacies of this game that kind of makes it a cool speedrun?
So it does have fairly precise movement. I mean, you'll see the kind of dashing around. You break a lot of the puzzles as well, just by doing various things. We'll definitely talk about a few of them, like super jumping, which is the absolute best. That's definitely my favorite one, and pretty much everyone that actually tunes in that I've seen anyway. And yeah, so while yes, you are essentially solving the puzzles, I would say at least half of them I don't solve in the way that they intended. So
cool.
Well, why don't you go ahead and...
Well, before we do that, maybe you want to talk a little bit about the history of this run? Well, excuse me. Forgive me.
Live show, more interruptions.
Do you kind of want to talk a little bit about the history of the run itself, the world record, kind of how it came to be? I mean, it's a fairly new game, but I'm sure it has a lot of history behind it.
Yeah, it is a pretty new game. It came out July 24th of not this year. Glad we're done with that. But it came out July 24th, 2018. July 20, people were already running it first day. Some people did have it ahead of time. But July 25th, we had 37:03, like 37 minutes, 3 seconds by Devil Swirl as our like first run, really. Lowest time that day. And just kind of people kept bringing that down. Dropped very quickly down to a 30:11 on the 27th. And already the developers were already in there, like, wow, this is really impressive.
3 days later, 7 minutes down, basically. Like,
yeah. Well, yeah. And they didn't really know, I don't think they knew a whole lot about speedrunning or into the community at that time, so it was kind of a new experience for them. The next day, the 28th, Flagelstan found a super jump setup. We'll talk more about that later, but this trick in particular allowed us to skip basically from the intro to the last level, and that caused a category split. So what we're watching today is called All Orbs. We collect all the stuff you're supposed to complete the game. Any percent is 83% shorter. Than all
how specific?
Yes, a little over 83%, but let's see. After that, so kind of just kept breaking that down, using those super jumps. We applied those to more than just any percent. We started applying those to the All Orbs run. That brought it down from the 30:11 down to a 29:17 on that same day.
And to be clear, by the way, the All Orbs run is the one we're going to be talking about. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the one that's playing right now. And then just a few days later on the 1st of August, 27:21. Again, these are by Devil Swirl, those past two. And just using more of those new strategies with those new findings. There was a break from Devil Swirl on the 4th of August, 27:01. It was 27:21 by Devil Swirl previously. That was August 4th then. And August 5th, Devil Swirl got a 25:43. That run stood for nearly 3 months.
This game's been out for 5?
Yeah.
60% of the game's lifespan was one record.
Yeah, it was just one record. No one could top that particular run for so long.
This was a week and change after the game got released.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it held. I was trying. But it took a good while. So I guess from there, should I talk about like my personal history going through it? So normally with this segment, they don't have the world record holder, but for logistical reasons and like location reasons, you do. It's me. I'm here. I'll say, so I didn't start running immediately, but I did pick it up really quick. This was my 12-hour challenge game. So if you're unfamiliar with that, so it's like a kind of a weekend event in the speedrunning community where people will just choose basically any game they really want and try to learn that speedrun within 12 hours over the course of that weekend. No real rules beyond that. Even that isn't even really a rule itself. But like by the end of that 12-hour challenge I did over 2 days, I had a 31:50. So I wasn't close to the record at all at that point. Let me check here. That was the record at that time was the 29:17. So I wasn't too far off for 12 hours of work.
Sure.
But it was still a bit of a bridge. On the 31st, I got a 30:54. I'm only mentioning this one because after I posted my splits in the Discord, Devil Squirrel joked, "On your way to number 1," which I laughed off as highly unlikely. I'll let you all know, I didn't think I was going to be getting the record in this game. I did later get on August 3rd, 29:21. That put me over YP, who had the 30:11, which put me in 3rd place. I would then be in 3rd place for months, I believe. Yeah, over a month at least.
Yeah, sure.
Yes. Then August 30th, I had a 26:20. This was around the time of AGDQ submissions. I wasn't sure I was going to submit. I didn't have the confidence, but this put me pretty close, or close enough to the 25:43 of number 1 that Devil Squirrel had to feel like, okay, I'll be able to put on a good show. So I didn't end up submitting the run. From there, the 26 minutes, even minutes in speedrunning, if you're not aware, just always seem to be some sort of wall to actually break once you get to them.
That's why you hear things like the sub 26, sub 30.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I got the sub 26. I got a 25:55. So I was happy about that. That also put me up to 2nd place. So, hey, I'm moving on up. Some other runs, maybe between then, I can't remember, or I didn't put in these notes. But October 30th, Devil Squirrel's reign ended, and I got a 25:31. I was running against my sum of best splits, which, by the way, your sum of best is the best you've done each split, kind of add it all
Half
together.
doing our jobs.
I know, right?
Yeah.
This live show is great.
But like the time looked terrible, but I knew I was ahead basically at that point. Then not too long after, I got like 3 records back to back to back, going from a 25:16 to a 25:06. So again, the 25-minute mark was proving a little rough to get past. Did shatter that later, November 17th, got 24:45. December 7th, there was a big gap again. There was some Monster Hunter in there, but there was also trying to beat this record. December 7th got 24:39, and this was just as a sake of mentioning, this put me a full minute ahead over the Devil Squirrel's run. The one that I thought, hey, I can't beat this. It's too far ahead of me. I won't be able to do it. I was very wrong. And then most recently, December 21st, not too long ago at all, 24:32. So it was a run saved by a strong finish, and hopefully it won't stand too long, and we'll learn more about that run shortly.
Yeah, and that was after we asked him to be on the show, by the way. So
Yeah.
we were like, hey, we know you're pretty close to PBing, so if you could just like do that real quick before we
And
come
then
up with all
don't
the
until
stuff.
afterwards.
Yeah.
Hey, Hey, he listened. He beat literally, the day after, right?
Yeah.
That's cool. That was one of the most like detailed histories that we've had, which I think is really cool because of how recent the game is. Right? Like it's one of the big reasons we like to talk a little bit about the history is that it's both important to like us to note that every run has a story behind it. Whether it's your first run, your second run, your 2000th run, every like PB that you get ends up having some story behind it that leads up to it and everything. And also, something I know that you cared a lot about it as well, Half, is demystifying the idea that world record is this forever unbeatable thing, or it's this this gigantic deal that like, oh man, that person's the world record is never gonna lose it. Like they're the best at the game that's ever existed. And that is kind of true in the moment, right? But like, it's one of those things where anybody can put in the time and the effort, and enough dedication really can help you.
It can feel that way, especially when you're up against the walls that we've been talking about, when you're trying to get that sub 25, the sub 26, etc.
I mean, that's especially true with these newer games like this, where we haven't really. I'm sure there's going to be something else found, right? Just it's eventually, so. It's especially true for these newer games, but even these older games, I can think of so many times they've heard just certain names like being unbeatable in their field, basically. Like Zyglimic with Super Mario 64 for so long.
OOT is dead.
And, sure it is. But that improvement will eventually come. It's just who is going to do it and when.
Yeah. So that's really cool. Thanks for the history.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think, it's a time that we kind of dive into these clips, right? So what you've been seeing so far has been the world record VOD, just while we were talking about the history. We're going to move on to our first clip, which Dark and Infinity tells us.
Sure. Yeah, so we're going to start off in 1-2. So I believe there's a 10-second cycle that you're trying to save, so why don't you kind of break it down and let us know what's going on here.
So with 1-2, there is a platform wall clip. You see, it takes me about 3 tries or so to actually get to work, but it's fast enough that afterwards, a little bit later, there is a kind of spike obstacle moving back and forth. That's basically on a 10-second cycle. I was still on the same cycle.
This one here that you just jumped over? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, just jumped over that. So that I was still in time to make that. And that clip can be pretty finicky sometimes. So it already moved over to the next clip.
Did we forget to loop those? Yeah.
Okay.
And if you want to hit that loop 1 button so that they loop around.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah. But whatever, we can talk about the next clip.
Let's just go into 1-4. Why not?
So
what's going on with these wall jumps we have here?
Yeah. So it's not really a wall jump, but we hadn't named it. I think I'm going to call it an indent jump once it goes back over to that. It's a specific part of 1-4 where you kind of have to push a platform or deform a platform a little bit, and then you jump up and hit it again, or not really hit it again. You don't dash into it. You just kind of lean into it and reset the platform. And from that reset, that creates a new indentation where you were leaning into it and allows you to jump up again. This whole level kind of leans on that because there's another cycle that I just barely met to dodge this last moving spike obstacle and get there in time. So that saves, that particular level is pretty difficult to get everything right with. It was also the best I had done that level as well.
That's always good.
Yeah.
Getting those gold splits or rainbow splits for you. That's always a great thing.
I think we've jumped into the next one.
This is the next one, yes. And it's getting a little hard for me to keep up.
Yeah. We'll maybe make the cue on when to switch to the next clip a little stronger. Actually, I think, I don't think we're looping. So,
there we go.
Okay.
All right. Technical difficulties. You know, it happens.
Live show.
Yeah. If you click the loop button again, Hannah, it should like loop just the single one. Then you can hit next to go between them. But
I mean, so this was the full 1-4 level, but we've mostly talked about that. It's just a lot of different things that you have to get right in order to meet that ending cycle. You miss that, you'll lose multiple seconds there.
Yeah, cycles are always a big deal in speedrunning.
They are.
The number of times that that speedrunning tricks have had one cycle because they're like, oh, we can get this all in the first cycle, so we call it the one cycle. And then they find a faster cycle, so then there's suddenly the 0 cycle or whatever.
Or the half cycle.
Or the -1 cycle.
Yeah.
Always interesting. But yeah, we could probably roll to the next one then.
Yeah, so we're going to move on to the 1-5 clip. So apparently, Half makes a huge mistake here.
Yeah.
No, so these are actually fairly small mistakes, but they're kind of example of just the things that can happen within this run in general. So when I hit the bump over the first laser, by the way, you don't want to touch lasers. They're bad for you.
Oh.
Yes.
The green ones especially. Like there are other...
Well, they change colors between levels, between worlds.
I always forget that.
Yes. So
we've talked about this a couple times.
But yes, so when I hit that first one, it creates a little kind of lip that I catch on twice as I'm kind of going through there. That costs, over a second or so, just that one small thing. It doesn't always do that, so I wasn't really prepared for that to happen in this case. And then the next clip is still in the same level, so if we can move on for that one.
Sure, let's move on to still the same level. So what's going on here? Apparently another huge mistake.
Yeah, just massive. It's just after I kind of reset the platform here and kind of try and move, you'll see I get stuck for a moment. That's a thing that can happen. The game can just decide, no, you don't want to leave that platform. It's too nice to you. And you kind of cuddle for a little bit. And that's just how it is. You can do a small jump. It's sometimes hard to remember that, hey, I need to do a little hop here to make sure I don't get stuck.
And the funny thing is, like you're saying, they're fairly small mistakes, but in like they do compound just even within this level. You said there's already 2 here that are a little over a second or so. So maybe 2 to 3 lost total in this level.
Yeah, I don't remember if I made any other noticeable mistakes this level, but compared to the best I've done it, it's like 3 seconds I could possibly save technically.
Right. Okay. But then especially small mistakes like that, if it were a level that were more heavily based on cycles, like the other one we were talking about, suddenly that becomes, you might make a 1 second mistake that turns into a 6 second mistake.
Yes.
Because you miss a cycle. That is a big thing with speedrunning that's always, you always got to keep on track of. Keep on top of.
And I do joke about this a little bit, but when you have a game that is like a 24-minute time, losing a second here, a second there actually makes quite a significant difference. When you think about a 24-minute run time, you don't have minutes and minutes to save. You have maybe 30 seconds, 45 seconds, something like that. All right, yeah. So losing a second or two here or there can definitely make a big difference.
Yeah, at this point, if we're talking my sort of end goal, if we don't find new strategies, I would say another 15, 20 seconds that I would be going for before I would say, yeah, I'm good.
3 of it.
3 seconds. Yeah. Right there.
So speaking of 15 seconds, I think we're going to go on to the next clip, which is in 1-6. This one, you actually lost quite a bit of time
I did lose. I lost a lot of time here. So while you're inside of that green smoke, which again will be a different color later, so just used to that. But while you're inside the green smoke, you can't dash or use the reset platform ability. So this puzzle was meant for you to work around that, but there is a buffered dash strategy that you can do. I miss it a few times here, get it on the 3rd or 4th try, and then I'm just supposed to land next to the laser and jump back up. I kind of hugged the laser, and
it looked a little lonely. You just wanted to give it a hug. Didn't work out too well.
No, it didn't. But we had a moment, and compared to how the best you could do this level, I have 9 seconds to save. Yeah. This is one of the big ones.
Out of the 15 seconds, we've seen 12 of it. So,
15 seconds you want to improve total. Well, that's nuts. And then Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I think my favorite thing about this is he still has 9 seconds to spare, but you can kind of see it like in his split after he dies. He's still saving time over his previous PB.
I still saving time in this particular case. That's how bad it was the previous time. So this buffer dash can be pretty difficult, and I kind of got this run after coming back from a little bit of a break, so I wasn't super consistent at this moment for it. So
Monster Hunter distraction, I'm assuming.
Earth Defense Force 5.
One of the other interesting things I really like about this strat, or not a strat, but about this unfortunate mistake, is that when you die here, you can see kind of a little foreshadowing for later that the platforms don't reset when you take a death. Like they actually are still deformed, and you can still jump up there without having to redo that buffered dash, right? So you guys are going to maybe make use of that later in the run?
Yes. So there is at least 1 or 2 intentional deaths. I don't know if we clipped those.
We got some stuff. Like we got some stuff.
Okay, well, maybe we'll see that then. But yes, it does get used to some checkpoint abuse in that case.
All right, so we're going to move on to our next clip. So that's not the only significant time loss, so I think this one was kind of bad too. So what's going on here, Half?
It was. Let's just put all my shame together. That was the plan from the start. So we moved on to the next world. You notice color shift. The main gimmick of this world are those thick lasers. Those are reset beams. Those don't hurt you. What they do is they reset platforms and yourself, spoiler, back to their default position. For platforms, it does it in a more, I guess, verbose, not verbose, but it does it in a stronger way so it can launch you than your own reset ability. The strategy here that you're supposed to do is you're supposed to move the bottom one kind of over and down. I don't go for that because it's technically slower if I do everything correctly, but it's a convoluted step to make it so I can push it down far enough without moving the bottom beam to actually launch high enough. And I was off just a little bit, so instead of getting launched, I just jumped rope for a second and I had to redo the whole setup. This is another stage of basically 9 seconds. You might say, wait, that's 18 seconds just from those 2 stages. So yeah, I'm a little easy on myself for like my in-game time.
It's pretty rare to actually just get a perfect run, right? Like your goal is usually slightly less than the perfection.
And to go back to the demystifying world record thing, I would argue that a perfect run does not exist.
You're right.
Until you've gotten it down to like 1 frame, which there literally is like a game or 2 out there that are down to 1 frame. But yeah, other than that, you're generally just going for what you're happy with, right? Like what you think is a good time.
Yeah, and the next clip actually is a good example of why I'm not super strict on myself when getting like super close to my best.
Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and move into the next clip. So this is kind of the transition between 2.3 and 2.4. You don't even do anything here, and the game just doesn't like you. So what's going on?
Yeah, so between each stage, the orbs you collect kind of settle into branches on the tree of that particular level when you exit the level. You'll notice the one on the far right decides it wants to wiggle for an extra second before it actually settles, and the game doesn't actually progress until they've all fully settled. So I have had that go between like up to possibly 3 seconds extra. It's not common for it to go that far, but it can. So compared to like my sum of best, again, best times all put together, those most likely all had good luck for this, and you're not always going to get good luck between each stage.
So here's the funny thing is with the mistakes we've seen so far, because like you said, there were a couple in a row there that we've got clipped here. That's now up to like 22 seconds or so of time loss in just all of that, and so it's one of those things where you said you're looking to save 15 to 20 seconds. If you had the exact same run but without those things, you'd have that goal time. But it's not as easy as it sounds to do, and that's probably going to be pretty evident in some of the next few clips, right?
Yeah, and again, that's also just like assuming that I played perfect that could save 9 seconds.
And got lucky with the
And got
wiggling.
lucky with the wiggling. So that's like a best case scenario to save that much time.
Yeah, so we could probably roll into the next one now.
We're going to go ahead and move on to now. Half, you're going to turn your good on. So let's talk about a really cool movement tech in this game, super jumps.
Yeah, super jumps. Again, I mentioned this early on. It's one of the coolest tech in the run. It's so satisfying to do. So you kind of push down the floor at a specific distance from a wall, so that it creates a little space that when you jump against the wall, you get stuck as the jump starts. And you just hold into the wall, and while you're holding the wall and jump, the momentum from that jump continues to build. And again, it's the momentum from the very start of the jump, so it's actually quite a lot because you haven't had any like drag or anything pull against it yet. And then when you pull away from the wall, all of that gets released. So depending on how long you hold it, is how high of a jump you're going to get. And you can go very high, very fast. For example, you won't see it with this, but with any percent run, right after you beat the intro stage, you'll do one of these, hold against the wall for 15 seconds, and then you just go flying over all of the worlds except for the last one, and you just finish the last level instead. So that's why there was a category split. But
Completely changed the entire face of the game where you're not actually, you wouldn't see any of this. It doesn't exist.
no.
But again, to kind of break it down even more detailed in terms of what you're seeing, so there are 2 super jumps in this clip. Here's the first one, and like you're saying, you hold against the wall for a brief amount of time, and suddenly when you move away, you get a lot of speed, a lot of height. And now this next one, it looks like you move against the wall for even longer. And that's why you get a lot more height when you move away. Like
the first one is actually very timing specific because there's a ceiling directly above you that you need to avoid. So you can't do like a super high one because you'll just bonk on that ceiling that's directly above you right there. The next one is a little more spacing specific because that reset beam interacts with the wall and gives you less available space to get that cord to snuggle into the wall. I'm using all these friendly words. Cuddle, hug, snuggle.
It makes it so cozy.
it wouldn't be you if you did that.
It wouldn't. It wouldn't.
Well, that's cool. What an awesome movement tech.
And
It doesn't get old to watch this.
No.
Yeah,
it really doesn't.
It doesn't get used like a whole lot until like this point of the run, but you'll see it a lot later on. So.
So yeah, so we're going to go ahead and move on to 2-6. So now you're going to be jumping out of dashes, and somehow that breaks the game.
Yeah, so remember, you're not allowed to dash inside of smoke. So there's all these examples of smoke in this one stage, but I start a dash outside of them, and then at the top of the jump, you can actually, or at top of the dash rather, you can do a jump. There's no midair jump in this game. That is not supposed to be
It looks
possible.
like a double jump. There isn't a double jump in the game.
There isn't a double jump. So it's just specific timing at the top of the dash. And so, we're supposed to do these kind of convoluted launch setups here. No, we don't. You just don't have to.
Yeah, it's just, you can kind of like get a sense of this, like just watching it. It's just like, this seems like these complicated puzzles that Half has to do. And it's like, nah, we're just going to jump and get the
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on. So now into World 3-4. So it seems like things went really well for you here.
Yeah, 3-4, this was the best I had done this stage. This is also where you will first see hamburger and hot dog.
Yes.
So you can flatten yourself either vertically or horizontally by going against these flat crystal walls, and that changes how you move. So when you're a hot dog and you're tall, you go very high, but you can't move fast side to side. When you're a hamburger, you move fast side to side, but cannot jump very high. And that's essential to the puzzles, and dashes go farther in their respective directions as well. But this was just another level where everything just kind of played together really well. Nothing went wrong. It all worked.
This is kind of what we were getting at with the whole, like, it might be easy to look at it and say, oh, if all these if just these 3 or 4 mistakes went right, then I played everywhere else perfectly, I'd save that 22 seconds and I'd be golden. Splits like these are why that doesn't happen, right?
Yes. And that's a great example too. I mean, because like we only really showed him in that 1.5. We only highlighted those because those sort of things where he gets stuck on little bits of geometry, that can happen anywhere.
Right. Just because they only happened there in this run doesn't mean that they haven't happened elsewhere in all your other runs.
Yes, exactly.
I love hamburger and hot dog.
It's great. And also, we forgot to mention that the normal form is called meatball.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
By our popular demand.
Yeah,
really.
so-
it has nothing to do with the Semblance community. We just kind of made this up.
I've let them know that is, and they've agreed. So,
Oh wait, really?
yeah.
We did it.
Because they were called Tall Boy and Wide Boy, or Tall
Long Boy, I think.
Tall boy and wide boy,
Okay,
because they're
yeah.
both long.
That's true.
Right,
Yeah.
So they were Tall Boy and Wide Boy, and then Half was like, "Yeah, I liked hamburger and hot dog also," and we were like, "It's hamburger and hot dog." I don't care what the community says. We're calling them hamburger and hot dog, and the normal one is meatball.
All right, so moving on from food.
Wow, Semblance, Super Meat Boy. Oh my god, those 2 teams need to get together and make a game.
Yeah.
So let's go down 3-5. Looks like you have a lot of difficult things to do here.
Yeah, so 3.5, I believe we broke it down into 2 separate clips because there were a couple different things that happened. This first one, again, there's a reset laser moving back and forth. So we have to kind of get around that. But we also need to become Tall Boy, Hot Dog, to get an orb back at the start of this particular puzzle. In order to do that, I kind of push up a platform 3 times, and that's actually a very precise jump and dash to hit that crystal wall on the other side. If you do it too early, you'll kind of just touch the wall, give it a kiss, another friendly word, not turn into a hot dog. But then after that, the hot dog moves slow, and also you have to have that reset beam to contend with. So we use the best menu option in gaming history, Reset Squish, to move Squish from where we were to the start of the puzzle. This, however, does not reset our deformation state. So we stay a hot dog, we get the orb, we move on.
This is what I was alluding to earlier with the death, showing that the platforms are still, deformed. Because
Yes.
it doesn't only apply to platforms; it also applies to your meatball, where
Yes.
you're squish. And so, yeah, it's really cool to see. I always love death abuse strats or reset checkpoint strats in games, because it's just one of those things where it's like a developer's thinking of it from the perspective of somebody who wants to start the level over or whatever, just needs to get back to a spot where they can complete the puzzle. And speedrunners are like, can we utilize this in a different way to go a little faster? And I just think that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is an actual death abuse one that isn't the reset squish in a earlier level in World 3. So we do kind of become flat, and there's a laser just right there. So why not to get back to the start of that particular puzzle?
All right.
I want the mod that calls this reset meatball, by the way.
Well, it looks like Muffins is way on top of this. Just, switch to the next clip as soon as I was going to say switch to the next clip. So, there we go.
Good job, Muff. That's excellent work. So this particular clip will kind of show, again, there's another reset squish at the start of it to get around another reset beam. The rest of this was this was also like a split where I saved a lot of time. These past 2, if you can take a look at the actual splits, I saved a lot of time in these 2 levels. So here again, we had to get kind of reset squish there, get around, and then we kind of take advantage of the jump out of dash to go over another reset beam, get the orb there, and then after that it's a fairly difficult super jump setup because the camera is so zoomed out, and it's actually a pretty precise position that you can go in order to skip this puzzle. And finish that, and then I'm 6.5 seconds ahead.
So yeah, in the last 2 stages he has gained about like 17 seconds. I think it went pretty well.
No, just the last one was okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Very nuts.
Great
Probably
place.
somewhere that you're not saving any time comparing against it in the future.
Yeah, this
Not
is,
much.
you'll notice just like, the end of the run, when I have been like 12 or 14 seconds ahead compared to this run going into 3-4, and I just haven't been able to hold it.
It's always difficult when you have really good end of runs because in the moment they feel great because they're like, I just had this awesome run back. Everything went super well in the late game. I clutched it out and I had an awesome new PB. But then when you run against it, you're like, I need to be so far ahead going up into these last few levels because I know I'm not going to match that same performance unless I do, and then suddenly it's amazing. But
Yes.
it's one of those things where you have to expect the time loss just from the nature of how difficult it is.
Yeah, absolutely. But the whole next clip, I guess we're probably ready to move on to that.
Yeah.
Is the final level of the game. This is the whole level. At the very start, I'm going to dash through a cutscene, and that kind of makes you just slide forward, so I'm going to have to reset squish to regain control. This lets me move much sooner. The very next particular puzzle, kind of cut and dry for me, I suppose, but it all works out. We become a hamburger. We make ourselves a hot dog. We kind of move things over to get a key. By the way, all the purple orbs or whatever were keys. Those don't have to collect those, but we do for this puzzle's sake to move on. And so that unlocks the next part of the level. We're going to see them going to dash through that little cutscene, but there's a wall, so it doesn't matter as much. So we don't have to reset. This leads us to another precise super jump setup. This time because there's a laser in that room, so you don't have a lot of time to set it up. And there's the walls don't overlap, so it's another more precise thing there. Everything's going pretty smoothly. I mess up a little bit on movement here, but I don't think it actually mattered because you'll see we dash through another cutscene, reset squish to regain control of the start of this new puzzle. And I think I'm on the same cycle of this laser as I would have been anyway. So I don't think I lost time there. Get a big launch. That's how a reset beam launch is supposed to look, just because we hadn't gone over any of those. Do some more switching forms here, and we're going to go right past the laser immediately. We're on a good cycle for that laser. You don't have much time for that. And that was that. That was that.
Done.
That was the run.
There we go.
You beat the game, and now you see us.
Yeah.
Is that the end of the game?
That's the end of the game. That's the end of the game. At the time, that was another rainbow or gold split, which again, the best you've ever done. I've beaten that by less than 1/10 of a second since then.
Wow.
That's pretty close.
Yeah. That is nuts.
So, I mean, yeah, you just think about like that ending segment. Those are like 3 of the best stages you're gonna have.
Yeah.
And like it's like you see all the time you could save in the beginning, but then that end.
Yeah. It's really daunting to approach it in that way. So that's the big thing, like mentally going in. It's like, man, I gotta have at least a decent start to this run, because it was actually pretty solid in the very beginning too. It was the middle where it kind of
Fell apart
crumbled.
for a while, but you had the run back of the century.
Those last levels,
Yeah.
incredible.
That's one of the things I like about having like graphs that you can compare it to too, because it's like we speedrunners are often call a run a roller coaster because it's got like the spots where it's like really good and your graph is looking like more green, which is downwards generally in a graph, and then it gets like kind of bad, so it goes way up and it's like back climbing the mountain and that's in the red and it's upwards, and then it gets like really good again and you go back down and it just looks like a roller coaster. It's super cool.
Yeah, that's true to this run. And it's a good example of, again, world records are not perfect, unbeatable things. It's gonna be broken. Hopefully I'll break it before AGDQ. I only have a few days left. But
Well, you can finally do it because now that you've done this, you won't have to get another world record. You weren't allowed to do it before.
yeah, exactly. I was holding back.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Now it's time to unleash the beast.
All right. Well, yeah. So that was Semblance. Awesome. So, of course, as we kind of alluded to in the beginning, Semblance is going to be at AGDQ. You're going to be running it. So, when is the run going to happen?
The run is happening Wednesday morning, 9:14 a.m. EST.
Great.
So at least around that time. Somewhere.
Yeah.
Marathon. So yes.
Of course, if you're up really late on or really early on the West Coast, or a pretty good time for the for European crowd as well and stuff, I know we're all going to be excited for that one and stuff. I'm probably hoping to be up that early. We already decided we're going to be your couch, so we can just
we decided to replace Volger.
All right.
Oh man.
But yeah, so that's going to do it for our run analysis segment. So we're going to go ahead and take a little break so we can kick out HalfCoordinated. I mean, take a little break because we kind of need some water. Maybe we're gonna play some
pinball. I mean, what do you? Don't lie to the people.
All right, we're gonna play some pinball.
We have a special guest. Come on.
We're taking breaks so we can play pinball, but then we'll be back with a little bit more.
Yep. So we'll be back in a few minutes. So stick around.
I think we're back. Hopefully the audio's on mute and everything. All right. There we go. Now I think we're on mute.
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed our minor pinball excursion.
It was a good break.
I've played almost no pinball in my life.
Half and I 2P1C'd it. We I think got more points than Frozen with the 2 balls that we got and the 1 ball that he got. That was
It's pretty fun.
that was good.
Probably going to be doing that after this. So.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah, twice as many players.
Twice as many players, twice as many.
Oh, perfect. No, that's
Yeah.
smart. Yeah. I like that.
Sometimes you just need to take a break from your show to play pinball.
Yeah,
Nothing
everyone
wrong
knows
with
that.
All right, good.
So right now,
That wasn't long enough. Forget. Well, as the title on screen says, we've now reached our checkpoint segment.
Mm-hmm.
So this is usually our segment where we just check in with the hosts and see what everybody's up to, and kind of what's been going on since the last show and everything. So, Half, you're going to also be a host today for this, for these purposes. So, what are you guys up to, or what are you excited for? What's coming up, Frozen?
I mean, speedrunning wise, I finished learning the last Frozen's Freezer thing, a story about my uncle. It is a blast of a run, honestly. Just the movement is really, really fun, and I learned how to do the clip, or I forgot what it was actually called, but the gigantic super jump. Really, just found myself trying to jump all over the place, even in areas that weren't part of the speedrun, just playing kind of casually. And other than that, there's something coming up this weekend, but I can't remember the name of it, so I'm just going to have to pass around. I'm not sure what it's called.
So I've been in the middle of a long, giant travel adventure. I've basically right after the last show that we had, basically a couple days after, I've been traveling since. So I've not been home, holidays, of course, and all that, celebrating with the family. On top of that, just kind of being busy. I don't know why. There's supposedly some sort of thing happening next week. That's what I've heard. So that may be keeping me busy or something, but that's it for me.
Half, how about you? What you been up to?
I mean, I was practicing for, I think that event, whatever it's called. So I've practiced for that. I've played some casual games. I played through Gris. That's a beautiful game. Also played The Friends of Ringo Ishikawa. Haven't finished that. That's if you combined Yakuza and Persona and made it 2D. And it has a dedicated squat button because you're a delinquent in 1980s Japan.
Of course.
It's a very amusing game. But I haven't finished that. Other than that, I've just within the past couple of days, one developer reached out to me to work on actually accessibility consultation for their game. So I've been doing that with them. And also related to that, after that big mysterious event, I'm going to be giving a keynote speech at a game jam at UVA on the 25th.
This was going to be our little joke that the AGDQ is the only thing happening segment. Here, you got awesome stuff that's going on.
And I completely forgot about that.
So that's basically to make Sex Rex jealous. Noted game jam speedrunner. I'll be at a whole game jam, giving a keynote speech and kind of advising the student developers as they work. So
that is awesome.
Cool.
That's for the global game
too far from me. I might consider going just to hear your speaking, unless they're going to put it online or something. That'd be cool.
I believe one of the organizers will be at the event, so I probably meet and talk to them about that.
Okay. Cool.
Live networking happening as we speak.
Right. Yeah. I want to at least be able to see it. But yeah, and then as for me, there's an event coming up.
Oh yeah.
It's AGDQ. Okay. It's AGDQ. That's what's coming up. They know
I've never heard of it.
This joke isn't funny.
What's AGDQ?
Awesome games done quick. 2019.
Right.
Because it's now 2019. Happy New Year once again. AGDQ starts this Sunday.
That's right.
At noon for the first run, 11:30 a.m. Eastern for the pre-show, which both Darkman and I are a part of.
Perhaps.
So, I highly recommend you check that out because we're putting a lot of work into it, and I like it. But yeah, AGDQ is coming up. That's really what's at the forefront of all of our minds, except apparently half. He's got other stuff going on.
Much cooler stuff.
Yeah. He's got other things going on that don't happen every year. But no, AGDQ is coming up, and so we thought it'd be interesting to just talk about AGDQ for a little while here. What are what are runs that you guys are excited for? What are kind of just even not runs, just as attendees of the event, what are some of your favorite things about it? And I'm gonna kick it to Frozen first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, in general, love being able to see all of the friends. There's a lot of people who we can get together and actually be able to speedrun live and in person, hang out and just talk twice a year. Not all that often, but also great to be able to look forward to. Run-wise, my number one is probably the Super Mario Sunshine 1v1 lockout bingo. Two of my good friends, Pangea Panga and Sniper King, are racing it. And for those of you who don't know, a lockout bingo is basically, they have a grid of goals within a game, and they are competing to complete these goals. If one of them completes it, it locks it out from the other one. So they are competing to get the most squares on this board. And it is extremely fun to watch, and this is the first time such a thing has been at a GDQ, so it's really exciting for me.
Yeah, it's really neat. You actually get to play defense.
Yes, you have to predict. You have to not only do your own routing live in person because you don't know the goals in advance, but you also have to predict what the other person would try to do and try to stop them from getting more cards, more goals completed.
Half, what are you excited for at AGDQ? Other than a run that we might have talked about a little bit.
Yeah, other than the run that I've already said the time for. Yeah, so this was the one thing they warned me about, other than us preparing to talk about Semblance. But they told me like, hey, be prepared to talk about what AGDQ runs you're excited for. I was like, oh dang, I have barely looked at the schedule. And they didn't tell me how precise we were going to be. So it's like I have stuff from each day pretty much. It's like,
wow, yeah, it's like actually, I can see it Tuesday, Wednesday.
Here's how we're gonna do this. Here's what we're gonna do this. Give us the first day, and then we're gonna bounce back and forth to you. Okay? We're gonna check in on
okay,
days.
good.
I like it.
Okay, good. 'Cause I didn't want to go too much. So the first day, I chose 2 runs. I chose Mega Man 02 Hard Mode, any % by Crank Dud. Mega Man 0 is very well known for, or at least among people who have played the series, that it's a very difficult series of games, and he's running it on hard mode. It should be a pretty entertaining time. I'm not super familiar with the run itself. I just know, as the game, what I've watched other runners do. It's a good time.
That ties into one of the things I'm excited for, which is tuning into runs I know nothing about.
Yeah.
Because there's always for those who don't know, when you're attending Games Done Quick, the last couple events, there have been the ability to watch the event live in your hotel room, on a closed circuit television system. And that has been really great because everybody always just hooked up a laptop to the TV before anyways. And it's one of the best things when you're going to bed at night at 4 a.m. because it's a 24/7 marathon and you're hanging out with different people. Or maybe at 11 a.m. after you've had a run in the morning. But one of the best things is just turning on that channel and watching a run that you would have otherwise never thought to tune into. Because sometimes you get some of the just most amazing gems. I would never know who Covert Muffin is if I hadn't tuned into a random Jedi Knight Academy run from him before. That was nuts. I just think it's super cool to see things that nothing about.
Sure.
I have others I'm excited
Or if you're like, oh no, I'm going to miss this run.
Turn it off.
Yep. And way easier than going all the way down to the stream room.
That's why sometimes, by the way, the crowd isn't super full. A lot of times it's because people, depending on the hour of the day and stuff, and that doesn't necessarily mean a late night hour. It could be just 10 a.m. because a lot of times that's early for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's very early. That's most of the marathon being asleep.
Sometimes people are super excited for a run, but they just, for whatever reason, aren't going to be able to make it into the stream room or are barely awake and don't want to shuffle down there. That's why sometimes it's not always full. Darkman, what about you? I've got something I'm excited for too, but I figure we'll
I had
bounce.
one more from
We'll
that
bounce
run.
back.
Oh, okay.
From that day.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so Shadow of the Colossus 2018 boss rush.
Oh yeah.
So I've always really enjoyed watching like the original Shadow of the Colossus and the remaster, but this is like a full remake of that. I'm very interested in seeing how strategies changed, but really it's one of my favorite games of all time, so I just really want to see how they do that fast with the new edition of it.
And I've never seen the new version of it. I wonder how. I have seen the original one. I wonder how that differs. So it'll be kind of interesting to see that as well.
I know there's physics changes, so I'm sure that'll affect
and
the run.
Almost always are. Right?
If there's physics changes, it's a different run.
Shadow of the Colossus has been on the top of my list of games that I need to play for like a decade. It's nuts. I still haven't gotten around to it, but I
And
swear
keeps getting knocked down to number 2 while he plays number 1.
No, what happens is they release Celeste, and then I play that, and like Super Mario Odyssey, yeah, all that. Which I had that word.
Or Mega Man 11.
Darkman, what about you? We'll keep bouncing.
Well, is Half's list finished?
For that day.
For
that day.
We're gonna bounce between the days.
Yeah.
Okay. So now am I supposed
I
to talk about
overprepared,
me? Am I supposed to talk about the day?
Just you.
Just
Yeah.
me?
Yeah. What are you excited?
All right. So well, first of all,
keep bouncing. I know Frozen's still got more. I've got more.
well, first of all, I just want to talk about the event in general. The only reason why I go to the GDQs nowadays is to play in the arcade because it's free play. You can play as much arcade as you want, whenever you want.
Except for the fact that there's probably 30 other people also in the arcade.
Don't
play the machines.
worry about it, all right? Just stick to what I said. You can play as much as you want, whenever you want. But yeah, no, in all seriousness, that is actually a reason why. Fun fact, I want to tell a funny story. Like one AGDQ, this is, I believe, AGDQ 17. So that was the time when they announced, Nintendo did the big Switch announcement back then, because they were releasing it in March. So that was like during AGDQ that week they had like a huge like reveal stream, right? It's like, of course, everybody at GDQs are like Nintendo fans. They're huge fanboys, right? So everybody was watching that stream. So you know what happened in the arcade? Nobody was in it. Guess what I did? I played the same machine for an hour straight because nobody was in that arcade. It was wonderful, let me tell you. So yeah, that's kind of one of my favorite things about GDQs.
That's
just
one
hanging
of
out in the arcade.
That's one of the best ways to actually stay up for a run. So like if you want to catch Half's run at 9 a.m. between like 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. nobody will be in the arcade. None of them. So it will be just free play on anything that you want to do.
The arcade's not the only thing too. There's like board game rooms, and there are sometimes at some of the events, there won't be at this one, but sometimes there's pinball, which actually before I started like doing interviews with GDQ, before I started kind of like being doing behind the scenes work, I actually won that machine from donating to AGDQ 2016. Okay, so like, yeah, donating, you do win prizes. Like,
Sure, staff.
I wasn't staff at the time. I am now ineligible to win prizes. But I thought about not becoming staff or doing interviews or anything because I wanted to try to win more prizes by donating.
But no more pinball machines are out there. So
I don't have room for them as much as I
it's true. There's not.
But yeah, like so I've gotten infinite enjoyment out of AGDQ 2016 right here, just from donating to charity. So that's super cool. All right, I think it's back to Half for your next.
We got Wednesday.
Okay, I'm gonna like try and condense what I go a little bit.
No, we got plenty more.
Fine,
Let's go.
It's all right.
Yeah,
do your thing.
This show is gonna run long, folks. Like we
are just going to BBS.
This is the time where we just talk about AGDQ for the next however long it takes.
Okay.
See you in an hour.
One thing I forgot to mention or just kind of went over. Big thing I'm excited for, other than the runs themselves, hugging my friends. I'm gonna give out so many hugs. Consensual hugs, but I'm gonna give out so many hugs.
I'm glad we specified.
But moving on, so there's Spike Hike by Sex Rex.
Yeah.
He's doing 100% at 2:57 a.m. Monday. So if you happen to be awake, why not check that out? He's also my roommate for the event, so I felt I should.
I'm not obligated.
But I mentioned like earlier, he's like the game jam runner. This is a 5-minute run if it goes bad. So this is a short thing. Right after that is Catbird All Worlds. by Mr. Uppercase T, which I believe the reason people are excited for that is because it's an iPad run. It's, I believe, the first mobile game run that GDQ has had. So if you happen to have stayed up for Spike Hike, just stay up a little bit longer for Catbird.
Yeah, I actually got a chance to see that game at a mystery tournament.
Okay.
So at the latest mystery tournament, for those who are not familiar, a mystery tournament is like basically you race against another person with a game that you have no idea what the game is. You don't only know like minutes before the race, so it's pretty cool. And one of the games was Catbird. So it was really cool, like watching the game. It's a pretty short game, but that is one of the coolest phone games I've ever seen, I must say. Like that was really fun to watch. So I would definitely recommend that as well.
Nice. I'm glad to know that I wasn't like faulted suggesting that.
I'm always interested by different things.
Mm-hmm. I did mention that I over-prepared, so I still have like 2 more runs from that
going,
one day.
It's all good.
So Monster World 4, any percent with Magic Merchant by Cyclone. Monster World 4 is a it was only released in Japan initially. It did get released later. They'll be playing it on a PS3 version from a later release. It was a Sega Genesis Mega Drive game. And it's just a very colorful, very satisfying run. It has a lot of neat little movement tricks, kind of letting you do like an infinite sort of double jump. And which ends up skipping about some graphical glitches that happen. With Magic Merchant is kind of like a debug tool that the developers left in. If you don't, I think it's if you don't buy anything or you don't save or do a certain point to a certain point in the game, then you interact with a certain bush. A merchant jumps out, and you can buy like the best gear from him right there, and that makes the speedrun go so much faster and so much smoother. Okay. I've watched a good bit of the run. A lot of the run itself. It's very fun.
I'm interested just for the Magic Merchant, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I just want to see that moment.
I'm so much more well prepared for our show.
It really is. He has notes. I just want you to see this. He has full-on notes, pages of them, and we're all just sitting here like, we have like a small amount of like reminders of what we were attempting to say, but nothing to this degree.
Yes. A common one other than that is, I'm sure you all know, Bloodstained Curse of the Moon.
Oh, yeah.
Any percent normal/veteran by Laxus that has a lot of cool strats in it. Some of them involving going upstairs that are no longer actually there, and skipping through levels and going out of bounds that way. There's a lot of cool tech with that run itself, and it was broken apart really well, really fast. So you should definitely tune in for that one.
Cool. We'll check in on you on the next day. All Hotfix, one of the ones I'm specifically excited for is Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, which is happening on the first day, I think?
Yes.
The second day? It's the first day?
First day.
Monday?
Really?
Monday. Second day. Monday. I should know that. Once again, half is more prepared than we are. Yeah, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, I'm excited for 2 different reasons. One is it's an awesome video game. And like it's going to be a great race between 3 people. But also, I'm going to be commentating that one, which I love to do commentary. For those of you who know me, know this. It's like one of my absolute favorite things to do, period. But especially when it comes to speedrunning and stuff. So I'm really excited that I get to do commentary on that one. And commentating races in particular are super interesting to me because I think that there's an extra dynamic added there in terms of like, you have to inform everybody about what's going on in the game because they might not have seen it before, but also try to make the race exciting if it's not, or just explain why it's exciting if it is. So I love doing that, and a lot of good friends are involved in that race. And I'm gonna be
fun fact: you created the ultimate segue.
Why?
Because Tropical Freeze is right after Bloodstained.
Oh, is it really?
Amazing.
Excellent. Well, I can talk about another one that I'm excited for because it's 2 runs after that. Oh. Actually, I'm excited for Jak 3 right after that as well. But Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, I am especially excited for. Crash 2 100% is being run there. I've run that category and that game, but I mostly run Crash 3 for the Insane Trilogy. But Crash 2 100% is a super sick run. It's very similar to the originals in a lot of ways, but completely different in other ways. So for those of you who have seen the original Crash 200% runs, like you'll still get to see some new stuff in this one, and still have some kind of familiarity with it. Blunts Moses is the one who's running that, which is just like a hilarious name to begin with. It's
pretty good.
But he's also a super chill dude and is fantastic at the game. I think he's in second place right now, like not by a whole lot, and is just going to put on a great show. He does a lot of no resets, so a lot of practice going into like a marathon setting kind of thing. And I'm really excited for it. I think it's just going to be great. It's Monday night as well.
Cool.
Frozen, anything else you're excited for?
Yeah, I mean the opener.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean we should.
You know
we
what?
should.
Yeah,
let's
let's check
check
it
it
out
on half so we can get on to the Tuesday stuff. Maybe he'll even cover what I've got.
Oh, we're just gonna skip over.
No, but like we're
We'll check it
alternating,
on
right?
you. Yeah, we'll check it on the
I mean, it's just I talked for so long.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's fine.
Oh, fine.
You're a guest.
Again, you're more prepared, so
Okay.
We're here to see you
Well,
talk. That's our
so Tuesday, 12:32 a.m. So right at the beginning of Tuesday is Silent Hill 2 new game by Punchy. So if you don't know who Punchy is, he's a very good commentator. He has a lot of energy behind his commentary, and it really shows in a game like Silent Hill 2 where he can really just explain the whole thing. You're probably going to learn a thing or two about doors, just so you know. But he's a very entertaining runner, also a friend. So I think that's going to definitely be a good time.
Shameless plug, we're also interviewing Punchy and Raw Derps, I believe.
Oh, well.
Shortly before that run, so like, you know, check that out.
Yeah. Okay. And this next run falls in the sort of time where it's like I should absolutely be asleep probably for comparison of time to my own run later.
You sleep during the week?
Yeah,
Oh.
I try.
I think I forget the definition of that word during AGDQ.
I get like a
I'll
solid-
forget it after my run is done. I'll forget what sleep
Yeah,
is.
you can't fall asleep during your
I
run.
get about
Yeah.
23 minutes throughout for the week.
Okay.
Okay.
That's pretty good, actually.
23
Yeah.
minutes of sleep.
But another run I feel like I'm obligated to mention is 3:40 a.m. Near Automata Ending E by Fullest. So Ending E is basically like all the main endings, all 5 main endings of the game. I ran this game to open SGDQ 2017. I just ran Ending A, so I only did like one ending. I forget what time that took me. They're gonna do this, I think, in what, a little over 4 hours, something.
4.5, I believe.
4.5 hour estimate. Yeah, so
That's
they're
like
going.
the true ending.
That's
kind
the
of,
true
yeah.
ending. They're going to get 5 endings, not just one, in that time. There's a lot of unique tech that's only really done in that and other long categories that you wouldn't have seen in my run. And also the game has changed dramatically. Fun fact, they kind of wanted me to talk about this game instead of Semblance.
Thought about it. Yeah.
Thought about it. It's like, no, I can't. I've been out of the community too long. I don't know all the new tricks.
Yeah.
I have like some base knowledge, but it's gone places, and it'll be really exciting to see. So,
All right, Frozen.
So going all the way back to the beginning, Hollow Knight they're doing True Ending %. I'm not sure who's running that, but
Visuals, yeah.
visuals, yeah, it's going to be awesome. I mean, Hollow Knight previously that I've seen in any % form is fantastic. True Ending is everything in the game, and seeing somebody actually speedrun that, I mean, I've never seen that, so I'm just excited for it. It's a tough game for those of you who haven't played it, and it is, I think, actually the last game that I 100%ed. I only 100% games that I absolutely loved on the first playthrough and would like to go back and play through more of it. So that'll be awesome.
that's usually my excuse for speedrunning.
That's the additional.
All right, back to Darkman, so we can give Half's voice a little bit of a break.
We're actually going to do a segue to another person. We're going to talk about what Hannah's excited to talk about.
Okay, yeah.
so-
Hannah's our
so-
restreamer
yes,
for anybody
yes.
who doesn't know that, by the way.
Also affectionately known as Muffins.
Yeah.
So she wanted to talk about the new change that we have to the board game room. So for those who aren't aware, we have a giant board game room at GDQ's. It's kind of this unofficial thing that just like came out of nowhere. It's just like a bunch of people just love playing board games, so they hung out, played board games. All of a sudden, like 500 people play board games, so they needed their own room.
If you look in that camera, the one in the top left, you might be able to tell that a couple of our webcams are stacked on some board games that we're absolutely going to play after this broadcast is over. So.
Exactly. So board games are fun at events like this. So it's gotten to the point where like it's really no longer an unofficial thing. So we kind of want to put a more official, like kind of more organization on it, because people bring their own board games, right? And like you want obviously to make sure your board games are all right after the event and whatnot. So now there's going to be board game librarians. That's the official title of the volunteers. So they're kind of like managing the room, like checking out. So
Frozen's mind.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Frozen's mind was like, wait a minute, that exists. Can I be that? Can I do that? You can be a librarian for board games. Amazing. Like watching your mind explode there was pretty great.
So as an official board game librarian, in addition to kind of helping check out and check in games and stuff like that, they also can like give recommendations. So like if people have never really played a board game before, they see all these, there's literally like mounds of board games in the room. So like it can be quite overwhelming to somebody who doesn't play them. So they can give suggestions and recommendations and kind of like help find people for you if you want to kind of play with other people. So this is great. Like I think it's awesome to kind of like see like this thing become like more like organized now and stuff.
I'm so
like
happy
that.
I could crash. This is great. I know what I'm signing up for next GDQ.
There we go. Frozen's going to be the next board game librarian.
All right, Darkman, what are you excited for outside of board games?
All right, so outside of
mostly Hannah excited for that, but I know you
I like the idea. So I want to talk about a specific run that's near to my heart. On Wednesday evening, it's going to be around 8 or 9, I believe. I don't know the exact time, but this is in the evening Eastern time. So it's going to be the Mega Man X1 through 3 Relay Race. So we have 3 teams of 3. So we're going to be playing Mega Man X1, Mega Man X2, Mega Man X3. So you're going to have each team of 3. They're going to play the first one, X1. They're going to finish, and they're going to pass it off to the next person. So you pass it off, repeat until the end, and then, of course, obviously the winner is the one who finishes first. So this is awesome. This has been kind of like a thing that the X community has kind of tried to do for a long time, and this is really like the first event where everything kind of came together. They're able to get like some of the really great runners. Like I don't know if you guys are really familiar, but like I'm really excited to see Luis Miguel come in from Brazil. So this guy's absolutely ridiculously great at Mega Man X3. He's been like the bona fide top runner of that game for like years, and he has been trying to get to a GDQ forever now. I want to say like he offered a game back in like 2015 or maybe even 2014. It's been a long time because like visa issues and money issues and stuff like that. He's never been able to come. So this is the first time that he's going to be there. Got his visa approved. He has the money to travel, so it's great. So he's going to be playing X3, and my goodness, if you've even like casually seen an X3 run, to watch Luis play X3 is just like something else. He is so good at that game. But of course, not to be outdone, we have some wonderful people. Like if you're at all familiar with the X community, you have like great names. We're talking like Caleb Hart, Walrus Prime, Tokyo 90, Trogdor, Colonel Fatso, Madu. He's also a Brazilian runner. We have Sopa from Finland. So these are top runners. It's like some of the best runners in the X community. So they're coming together. And I'm really excited. 3 teams of 3. I honestly have no idea what to expect. Who's going to win this?
And that's one of the best things with a race, right? Like, you don't want it to be, oh, this is the clear favorite. You want everything to be super even. And that's what we're getting.
Here's the thing, too. Even if you're not the biggest fan of Mega Man, which we might have gone over in previous episodes, I'm not the biggest fan of Mega Man. Watching those games as speedruns is unbelievable. Like, it's super cool, especially as races. So, like, I'm excited to watch that one, too. Yeah. It's going to be great. All right, Half. You know what time it is. We're bouncing back to you for your next day.
Well, I wasn't done with Tuesday.
All right. We might need to rapid fire that a little bit.
Oh, okay, fine. So, like, Tuesday, Bastion all story levels by Primorix, 12:46 p.m. That one, normally, most of the time that we've seen Bastion, it has usually been like one of the more any% or closer to that sort of categories. This does all the story levels, so it's a longer run. You'll see more, but there's still definitely a lot going on in Bastion. It's just a classic, beautiful indie game to watch and listen to as well. So it's just should be a good run. I'll be very remiss if I did not mention 1:46 p.m. Shortly after that, So Momodora Reverie Under the Moonlight.
Oh, do you know that game, huh?
Yeah, I might have.
Another game we were considering talking about on this episode.
Yeah.
And same thing happened with Nier. Things have changed.
Things have changed, but they're running a category I've never touched. AVIB Hard. Now, hard is just the difficulty, but AVIB stands for All Vitality Fragments, Ivory, Bugs, and Bosses. So it's the community replacement for 100% because they don't have a percent counter for those sort of things. So you'll see a lot more of the game and some more tricks than when I had. And again, there's a lot of changes too. It's been a lot more refined. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what Sneaky puts together for that run in particular. And aside for Nier and Momodora, this is the first time games that I ran get another showing at a GDQ. Cool. So I'm excited for that. You know, It's felt like a curse. Like they can't get back in. They keep trying. But I'm very glad to see them finally get accepted again. So.
Well, if that was Tuesday, we gotta go to Wednesday. Man.
Okay,
Let's just go.
We'll rapid fire a bit more.
Okay, sorry. Guacamelee 2, any percent by the Blacktastic.
We had that last episode.
We did.
So,
Yes.
That was good.
Bobby's a good friend. I'm definitely have to try and be there to support, even though it's like at the time I should be practicing for my run, just shortly after. But I gotta try and catch that because it won. It's an excellent game. Again, I have this partialness to indie games, but it's a wonderful Metroidvania, very beautiful artwork, and just like really good mechanics. And they break it a lot. Doors do things in that game.
If you're interested in a sneak preview, you can go back,
watch
watch episode 4, and you get the entire breakdown.
Yeah, exactly. After that, there's 9:14 a.m. Semblance by me, Dagnabbit. That's what it says.
Actually, what it says. Like if he didn't say Dagnabbit, I was going to call him out on it. I was looking down and I saw me, Dagnabbit.
What's their Twitch? Huh? What's their Twitch? Me Dynamic.
It's Frozen/HalfCoordinated. Oh wait, hold on.
Yeah, but and then not too long after that is Warcraft 3 by Covert Muffin, which he mentioned Covert Muffin as well. Covert Muffin is an excellent person, and his joy is infectious.
Yeah,
it really is.
So you will, even if Warcraft isn't your thing, it isn't my thing. It's still he'll make it an enjoyable ride.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. And I can attest to that because he ran a different Warcraft category.
Yeah, he did an Undead campaign last time, and this time it's the Orc campaign. This was going to be my next one, and I'm Warcraft, Blizzard in general, but Warcraft specifically was a gigantic part of my childhood, and kind of also how I got into programming by learning how to develop maps with their integrated language, Jazz. And no, I just love seeing everything to do with Warcraft 3.
Yeah. Anything else for Wednesday, or is that Wednesday?
That's Wednesday.
Okay,
we're done. Okay,
it's Wednesday. I can jump in for another one.
Sure.
Late addition to the schedule, so you might have actually missed this one, is Zem92, great runner of Ratchet and Clank games. His Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal any percent run was accepted as a backup run. So what that means is as you get closer to the event, some people unfortunately realize that they can't go. They either can't commit the money, or they have visa issues, like you said, or other things come up and they can't come to the event. So they end up withdrawing their run, and in order to replace that spot in the schedule, we take from the backup list. And Zem's run got off the backup list very recently, and he already set a new world record. Two new world records.
He back-to-back world recorded in a stream.
Yeah, wow. He set at least 2. It might have even been more than that.
I think it might have been.
Since he found out that his run got in, which has not been very long. So that's super cool. And again, shameless plug, I'm going to be on the couch for that, which I have. Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal is one of the best speedruns that not a lot of people know about, I will say, because it's just... like... Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, many of the 3D Marios get applauded for their movement tech a lot of the time. There's such a simple mechanics with such a big depth to them in terms of how you can utilize them, especially Super Mario Odyssey. And Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal has that in spades. Like it's nuts the amount of if you get into the nitty gritty, there are 19,000 different ways that you can use like 4 like basic techniques, and they all come up in different situations. And I just love it. Zem's been kind of the king of that game for a while now. Also a good friend and stuff, and it's probably like it's just one of those games that I love doing commentary for and talking about because it's such a blast to watch.
I actually considered Ouya for the freezer, and I was like, it's a little bit too known, but
Right.
it's still it's kind of borderline. Enough people don't know it, and I think it deserves a bigger spotlight than it actually gets. But a little bit too popular.
Here's the best thing: they would always refer to it as Rack 3 until the Rixer and myself basically started learning the game and playing it. We're like, no, you got to call this Ouya, okay?
It just makes me think of the console.
Up your arsenal, UYA. You call it Ouya. We really gave it that term. But
You know, I'm starting to see a trend, Hobbs. You're really excited.
I'm excited for runs I'm involved in.
Runs
Okay,
yeah, okay.
Okay, let's get it out there. All right. I'm excited for other runs too, but it just so happens that these were the ones I was most excited for.
It's Celeste.
Celeste is on there, and I am excited for it, but I'm not involved in it.
I wonder why that was.
No, I wanted to make sure I brought that one up too because it was a late addition to the schedule, and it's super cool. I love it. Great game.
Cool.
Agreed.
Back to half.
Okay.
I know we got something coming up, maybe a block or something Thursday morning.
Wow,
know.
that might have been like the next thing on my
Wow.
note. My note literally says destroy your sleep schedule for the entire awful block, but especially virtual hide glide 100%, which that whole game is a frame rate. It's a feast for your eyes, a slideshow that you will never forget. By Gyre, and if that wasn't disorienting enough, just a few hours later they have Mohawk and headphone jack
Bye, PJ.
by PJ, which
Viewer discretion advised.
viewer discretion advised. That will be a little disorienting.
Yes.
Just
Yeah.
visually, just
Interesting.
steal your stomach.
It's like the first time you tried to watch somebody play a VR game, or maybe even play VR yourself.
Yeah.
It's like that.
it can indeed make you dizzy. So
See,
just,
I guess I'm
or
the only one
nauseous.
in this room that doesn't know anything about this,
man.
and I kind of want to keep it that way until I see the run.
Beautiful. Yes.
There may be some sickness involved. Just full disclaimer. So if you feel uncomfortable watching the run, it's totally not out of the ordinary. Just stop watching the run. Like actually being serious here. Like just stop watching the run.
Or maybe we'll get on
I'm sure you guys have like other things to say about the awful block, though. If
I do actually.
Yeah, you guys.
I want to kick it off by the first game in the Awful Block. There's a Mega Man game in the Awful Block.
Yeah.
I was going to go for
And
these
Yep.
games.
And you may think, Mega Man in the Awful Block? No, it's not X7. But, no, it's actually, in fact, Mega Man for the DOS. Mm-hmm. That's right. For the DOS. Now, you
Yeah.
may be wondering, what the heck is that? I'm not even going to bother explaining it. This is
What's the average,
abysmal.
age of our audience? Like, how many people actually might
No,
not know what
the
DOS,
DOS is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't even explain DOS if I wanted to. But it's on the DOS. It's a game. Abysmal is probably too generous to describe that game. So I would just say if you have any passing interest in Mega Man games, you should probably watch that and just watch at how awful this game truly is.
See, you may have just described. Go ahead.
It does conveniently bridge the Mega Man block
does.
into the awful
it
block.
does.
So if you like Mega Man, you're probably already there.
It's not only the awful block, it's the DOS block within the awful block, because right after it is Avoid the Noid by
Yes,
the one and
which
only
is
Mike Uyama.
Great.
Which, if you're not familiar, the Noid was a mascot for Domino's Pizza a while back, and they made a video game. I think you can call it that. It's-
And corporate sellout is kind of near and dear to my heart for whatever reason, so I'm a big fan of Avoid the Noid. Huge fan.
Awful block is just a blessing.
It really is.
It really is wonderful.
Like if the
And it's really fun going through and like, is Author Blues running this year? Because most of his runs, he's not running, I don't think, in this one.
It's not.
But in general, most of his runs are always in the Awful Games block.
Oh, it's wonderful.
What else you got for us, F?
Yeah. So I think some of you other you might actually talk about this better than I can, but Ninja 5.0.
Yeah, so the story behind this is actually really fascinating. So, actually last year now, excuse me, I was about to say this year. So last year...
You're actually pretty good at remembering it, though.
Yeah, I would not.
No, I would have been saying this year entirely.
So, okay, let me give you a little backstory. So, Ninja 5.0 was actually run at AGDQ. This is AGDQ 2014 by Blecky. And that's really, to the extent, like, for the most part, the only public, like, showing of the game. Like, nobody, like, runs this game. Nobody really streamed it or anything like that. So it was really Blecky's run. Like, he did this at AGDQ. And Blecky doesn't really stream a lot, so you can't really find, like, you know, PBs and stuff like that. It's really just that run. So fast forward to last year, GDQ held an event in the off-season called, in combination with Speedruns Live, so it was called Season 2. And in this event, what would happen is basically every week there would be a new game to learn. And people would try to learn it, get as good as they can in a week, and then they would run in a race, and they would get, you know, more points for, you know, finishing higher up, of course. One of the games was Ninja 5.0. And Ninja 5.0 received some of the best response out of, like, all of the games. It was bizarre. Like, when we came to the playoffs, so the playoffs after the 9 games, right? So it would be, like, the striking system. So competitors would, like, you know, strike games they didn't want to play. Ninja 5.0 was, like, one of the most played games that entire, like, playoffs. People loved that game. And the runner in particular that is running at AGDQ, Just Defend, he was actually a competitor in Season 2 in the playoffs. He learned the game, you know, during Season 2, and he ended up actually playing it more after Season 2, and now he's running it at AGDQ. This is really awesome.
Yeah, good story. Yeah, I knew it was a great story, so I had to put it all in. Yeah.
All right, what else we got on Thursday?
We got
Or Friday, whatever we're going
Thursday, there's Dead Cells, any percent race. I forget all the names. I know Studio
Big
is on
Honkin'
there.
Burger, Church and Sarge, and Scaz.
Skazak, yeah.
Big Honkin' Burger is also known as Studio for anybody.
Yes.
He's Big Honkin' Burger.
Big Honkin' Burger.
That's Studio.
But yes, that's at 6:52 p.m. Dead Cells, if you don't know, is a roguelite game, but it's kind of presented similar to a lot of just action platformers, really, 2D action platformers, and it's going to be really interesting to see how they do it fast and hopefully consistently.
It's a race, yeah.
Yeah, it's a race. I believe it will be a set C that's been tested by others to make sure that, you know, it will be completable.
Sure.
But still, I'm excited to see how that is. And after that, there's this game about, like, climbing a mountain that we might have heard about.
Getting over it. Getting over it.
I'm an ice climber.
I'm glad that both of us went getting over it. And ice climbers. Sure.
But it's Celeste. All chapters by TGH. You might have heard of him if you've heard of Celeste and speedrunning.
Posted getting over it. I'm sorry. That was just
It's so good.
It's very good. It's very good.
We all had the same joke in mind. You two just had the exact same joke in mind. Celeste is great. You know, you know about Celeste at this point.
I'm pretty sure that you do, and we've mentioned it enough this.
Yeah.
We'll save it for next episode.
Yeah.
Just cool.
TGH has put a lot of work into the game.
Yes,
it's
he has.
absurd. So, yeah, that's all I have for Thursday.
That's okay. For Thursday. All right. I know another one that I was excited for is, I'm trying to remember. Well, Task Block is always cool.
It's always good.
Yeah, Task Block's always good. I don't even want to, like, there's not too much to say about it. It's just like, that's just always kind of
I guess we should probably talk about what a task is, in case if people don't know what that is.
Yeah.
A task is a tool-assisted speedrun where basically you program or you input movements frame by frame, so you can do things that a human cannot actually do. And by doing this, they can do all kinds of crazy things, from either lowering the time by an insane amount, or, you know, reprogramming a game completely while playing the game. And the task block section of AGDQ showcases some of those as they normally do.
Yeah. At their core, tasks are basically like the theoretical perfect speedrun.
Yeah.
If somebody were able to play absolutely perfectly on every single frame, this is what it would look like.
Often beyond that, because they'll be able to put in inputs that aren't possible for a human to do on, like, say, a controller.
Right. Well, and that comes down to task by task. Sometimes that's allowed, sometimes it's not. Obviously, like that's very case by case situation. But it's one of those things where it's like, this is like, if somehow you were able to physically put in like that many inputs at once, this is what the speedrun would look like at its absolute perfection. And if you haven't known this before, by the end of any task being made, because they often take a long time to make and involve several different people a lot of the time, it is almost always invalidated because somebody found something new. Of course. Almost immediately. But task blocks is pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
I got a pretty I got a run I'm excited for. I don't know if any of you have heard of Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise.
I mean, I have, but I can say I haven't just so you can explain it if you want.
I was just gonna say, if you could have said yes, that would save me a lot of time.
No.
I don't know. I don't know enough about it anyway.
So you guys may have seen me, hear me talk about this like pretty much every show at this point.
Yeah,
that's my Celeste.
That's
my Celeste, right? So Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise. It is a randomizer. So what happens is you get the Enterprise, which is the ship in Final Fantasy IV, at the beginning. So kind of opens up a lot of the game, and you kind of go to like certain places. You try to get key items. Eventually, what you're trying to do is get the important key item, the crystal, to beat the final boss. And, of course, a method to get to the final boss. So, this is, of course, the first time they're going to show this at a GDQ, so I'm really excited for that. It's going to be a 4-player race. 4 of the best players, honestly. I believe Abda, JR, we have Nirm, we have Kubahi, and I forgot who the 4th player is. Forgive me. But
Rivers? Rivers McCann?
Let's find out right now.
I think it's Rivers.
I'm just gonna look right now. You can't stop me.
I'm pretty sure it is.
It is. It is indeed Rivers. See,
yes.
look at that.
Got it.
Coming in the car.
There may or may not be an interview for that, which is why I have it in my head.
So if you didn't catch it, he does interviews.
So they're going to be playing under the League Match category, which is basically like a medium difficulty, I guess, if you will. So it's going to be fast and frantic. It's probably not going to take more than, I would say, like an hour and a half for most of the competitors. So I'm really excited to see how this is going to go over. It's definitely going to be, I think, a little bit, hard at first to kind of see what's going on, but once you kind of get into it after a few minutes, it's really fun. Sure. I'm excited. If I'm sure a lot of you at this point have kind of watched randomizers, but you may think, how does this work with an RPG? And you're going to kind of see that, honestly, it's really not that much different than, like, maybe something like Link to the Past, if you're familiar with that. So, yeah, definitely check that out. It's going to be like Friday, like early evening, right before the task block, actually.
Another one of those kind of like big show kind of things, I think. There's also Final Fantasy IX.
Very excited for that.
Yeah, yes. Final Fantasy IX is getting shown. It's going to be all night long, so you can go to sleep watching it and wake up watching it.
It's a very comfy speedrun.
Because it's about 9.5 hours, and a very common response is, how can you have a speedrun that's 9.5 hours, right? Like, that's a very common reaction when people hear that, and think about how long that game is casually, probably somewhere in the, 40, 50, 60 hours, something like that. Like, that's why 9.5 hours can be a speedrun, is it's still, like, the ratio between speedrun and first playthrough is still ridiculous. It's just great, and all the people involved in it are awesome as well, and they should have a pretty good commentary. Yeah. I'm not involved in it. Hey, I picked one I'm not involved in.
We're very proud of you.
No, thank you.
I think the coolest thing is that they're doing this, like, I guess, a co-op, if you will. Doing
like a relay.
Yeah, like a relay, I guess. A co-op relay. They're doing 3 players, so they're kind of like switching at points of the game. So I think it's really neat. It'd be a little bit rough, I guess, if somebody were to do a live marathon 9.5 hours. But do it with the 3 of you, so that's good.
You might see 1 or 2 people, or hopefully all 3, probably everybody at the tech area, at some point go to the bathroom. Get up, go to the bathroom, get a drink, get some food, maybe.
Because I think that the entire time you're doing inputs, like, there's no breaks.
Yeah, not really. Not much. And we're getting a reminder that hosts for long games are people to be applauded.
Yay for hosts for long games.
They're the real heroes.
Absolutely.
Tech shift.
Yeah.
All right, Half.
It's a Saturday. Last day.
We're Friday.
Friday.
Sorry,
No, we're on Friday.
Forget
Don't worry, we have Saturday covered.
I probably went on.
Yeah, you have Saturday covered. But Friday, I just have one run that we haven't talked about because I mentioned Taskbot on there because that's Friday. But there's GTA Vice City, any percent, no SSU. I'm not sure what SSU stands for in this case. Do any of you know?
Super Smash Ultimate.
Perfect.
Yeah, there's no Super Smash Ultimate in GTA Vice City. I can confirm that.
Yeah. So, but I've watched a few runs of GTA Vice City. It's always really entertaining because it's a glitchy game.
Yeah.
It's a glitchy game. They do definitely break a whole lot of things. So if you haven't seen that, I think you should try and find that. Again, that's 11:42 a.m.
And also, I just want to point out the runner, that KZ Fru, is a really energetic guy, super passionate. We had him at GDQX in October, and he was just like lighting it up with his commentary. So
Love it when people are
you
like
should,
that.
yeah, you'll definitely get a good show out of him.
I think that's why I put it down here. Actually, was that run? So thank you.
Anytime.
Good reminder.
Random other reminder too. All the times we're talking about are Eastern time. So like,
Yes.
if you're like, oh no, I can't make that, but then you realize
Eastern U.S. time.
Yeah, Eastern Standard Time. If you're like, oh, I can't make that, but then you realize, oh wait, I live in Europe, or I live in Australia, or I live in, on the West Coast or something, like maybe you can actually be able to watch it. And keep an eye on the schedule throughout the week because it fluctuates.
Yes.
Sure does.
Yes, it's games.donequick.com/schedule.
See, man, he's the host, right?
And it'll just it'll automatically adjust to whatever your time zone is, so that'll be great.
Seriously, like,
I know it's not official, but there is also an app. There's
It's not an official app.
It's I will specify it is not an official app, but there is an Android. I think it's also an iPhone app. But it's been super helpful for me. You can set reminders on there for your phone to like alert you when the run goes off.
Cool.
It's been nice.
I always just throw it in Google Calendar. Have the ones.
I just
all
like
the
it
ones
because it
I wanna check.
updates.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right. Anything else on Friday? Or
I'm good on Friday and Saturday. I have a note. Final day looks generally interesting, but I'm betting the others will present it better.
That's a great note.
Frozen.
I believe that Wind Waker HD is on Saturday.
Yeah, I think it's that night, like Friday night, Saturday morning.
No, it's actually Thursday night. Friday.
Thursday night, Friday morning.
Okay,
It's
never
first
mind.
night, yeah.
Completely
Yeah.
wrong.
Don't worry
But
about
your boy Linkus, one of my good friends, Linkus7, is running that, so I've been really excited for that.
I'll give you two darks. I think we're getting production notes from our
Long game mode.
The constant pull over of yay long game mode.
I'm going to give you two. Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne are both awesome games that are really cool speedruns because they're like... I started with Kingdom Hearts speedrunning, which is... it has some movement, but it's mostly about fight strategies when it comes to smaller fights, but also especially boss fights. And that is Dark Souls completely, right? Like it's so much about boss strategies and knowing how to very quickly dispatch bosses before they get into maybe long animation phases where they're invulnerable and stuff like that. On top of often some really useful bugs and just like good like ways of getting items that you wouldn't think about very early and stuff like that. So that's really cool. I don't remember who the Dark Souls 3 runner is. Spacey One is the Dark Souls 3 runner, and Jesus Here's Toast is the Bloodborne runner, which is a bonus game. So like that'll be contingent on donations, but those are both going to be super exciting, I think.
I want to highlight the Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past run on Saturday morning. So this run is a low percent run. So low percent is, of course, you can only get as few items as possible. You can only get the item if you need it to beat the game. So they don't use like any like glitches or anything, because like if you just did this game with glitches, you'd beat the game in like 2 minutes. So no major glitches is what they kind of call it. So they're gonna kind of take it through the game, and it's gonna take like an hour and a half or so. We're gonna add a small tidbit to that low percent run. How about one hit KO? Yeah, that's right. As soon as they get hit by somebody, they die. That's it. So for an hour and a half plus. With no items that can protect you, like shield you and anything like that. No, you just run into something, you're dead. So Zelda is going to run this game. And let me tell you, Zelda is amazing at Link to the Past. He's the current world record holder.
We analyzed
his run in episode 3. I love watching one-hit KO runs. They are amazing. Like, just seeing them get through everything that the game throws at you. while trying not to get hit at all. It's really fantastic. Honestly, I feel like if the category doesn't sell you, then I don't know what's going to sell you. It's like this.
Yep.
Here's the spoiler: they'll get hit at least once.
Yeah.
Like that's just,
He will.
You don't just no deathmatch. It's just not fun.
and it's always entertaining when it happens. Okay, Half, you want to pick Super Mario Odyssey?
I'm not the person to talk about that.
I was going to just say it, but that works too. Super Mario Odyssey is cool, and it's on that day as well. It's going to be a darker side run, which is really exciting. Bayleaf is the one who's going to be running it, and it should be pretty interesting commentary. Better commentary than at SGDQ. I'm just going to throw that out there. But it's going to be really great, and it's a much longer run, so a lot more movement optimization throughout, like just going from moon to moon to moon in that game, which is just it's just beautiful to watch. Like, go watch Lost Kingdom. Just look up Lost Kingdom from Super Mario Odyssey. Any percent or darker side, either way, and it's just like
The movement is just, it's graceful.
yeah, exactly. That's what it is. It's really cool. It's just gonna be super exciting.
Yeah.
Cool. How about the finale? I don't know if anybody's heard of this game. It's called Super Metroid.
I think it might have been ran out of
I've
previous
heard of
GDQ.
Metroidvanias.
Yeah.
Is it related
Those
to
are
that?
Yes.
I'm familiar with.
Is
Yes.
it related to Metroidvanias?
So it's like Castlevania.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the It's like the father of Metroidvanias. Yeah.
Is it the one with the animals?
Yes.
Okay. You want to kill those, right?
No, you should save them.
No, definitely kill. You have to kill.
But you could save them.
But you want to save the frames, not the animals.
Those are some cute little pixels, tell you what.
All right, well, we are divided 50-50 here, kill and save, and I think that's pretty much the way that I think that's it, right? Like I think we got to close the show on that one.
I agree.
We're not going to come to an agreement here. Please, everybody, we won't be back until after AGDQ. We will be back the first Tuesday after AGDQ, so expect hoarse voices and very, very tired people with black rings under their eyes
Pretty
and
much,
stuff.
yeah.
But please just enjoy Awesome Games Done Quick, everybody. Starting at Sunday, it's going to run all week.
Yep.
And please donate, because the Prevent Cancer Foundation is a fantastic charity, and we've worked with them for a few years now, and they're always awesome to work with. And I don't know if we have any other announcements or anything last minute, but if not,
I think we're good to go. I just want to remind everybody that we're kind of having a week of broadcasts, so to speak, to kind of hype up AGDQ. So our next broadcast is going to be Friday, unless we have a last minute thing, which I don't think so. So Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern, I believe, we're going to have another hype show. So it's going to be Super Mario Brothers 3 Mix. It's going to be a race. It's going to be really cool. And then
also at AGDQ, there's going to be open orientations for all the volunteer roles, or at least most of the volunteer roles. So if you're going to be at the event and you haven't volunteered before, maybe, or you have volunteered but you want a refresher or something, and you kind of just want to see what it's like to volunteer, the orientations for most of the volunteer positions are all open. So you can check them out and see if it's something you'd be interested in the future. The schedule is in your attendee guide that you got in the email. Oh. And if you aren't attending, then just watch the event when it goes live.
Yeah.
There we go. So with that being said, I believe that wraps it up for episode 5. So we're going to go ahead and I believe we're going to finish off with a little video, aren't we?
Yeah. We figured we haven't talked about AGDQ enough, so we are going to roll some highlights from AGDQ 2018 from last year. It was last year, yeah.
Hey.
As of today, is last year. So we're going to roll that video. It's pretty long. It's like 20-something minutes long, so just enjoy the highlights. If you miss any of them or you want to watch them again, it's also up on the Games Done Quick YouTube channel. And we'll see you guys after AGDQ, or really at AGDQ
for anyone who's there.
Anyone who's going to be there, anyone who's going to watch any of our faces show up on the stream. So. Thanks, everybody. Thank you once again, Half, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks.
Live show. It was great.
We did it. Nothing.
Thanks for having
Nothing
me.
went too wrong.
Yeah.
I almost said nothing broke, but
There's still 20
time.
minutes. Bye, everybody.
See ya.
There you guys.
Nine, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, So what you're going to notice is that the idea is that Zaldard is going to avoid playing both games actively at the same time as much as possible. Again, when I first not cooperating with Mirage Dance, when he goes into that, sometimes you can jab him out of it, but it is random. There's no real timing for it.
And final few star punches on Bull, and he'll be finished. They might be both finished at the same time.
There we go.
Simultaneous.
Very nice.
How about that? Not going to see that too often.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry for the. Well, here we go.
Okay, sorry, I thought he was dead.
There's this, and then...
Alright, here we go.
That.
This is the final stage coming up.
Final rush.
Yep.
Coming up is a skip actually discovered by Mustache, the consistent final rush skip.
Assuming he doesn't go for fast.
Oh yeah, you're gonna go for a fast FR.
Oh no, dude.
No, don't do it.
Fast FR! Fast FR! Fast FR! Fast FR!
Oh,
He's
do
going
it!
for
Do
He's going
it!
for it!
Let's go!
He's going for it!
The long and short of this trick is you're just going to launch yourself at a kill plane and hope you make it through.
It's like
That is all there is to it. This is about a 12% chance to get through.
Come on.
Come on.
Oh!
Let's go! Oh my god! He got a fast FR at AGDQ.
I can't believe that,
ridiculous.
There,
Are you kidding me?
I am not joking when I say there is no trick there. You just go for the kill plane and hope you make it.
There's no way this has ever been done at a marathon before. This is the first time.
So far, so good.
So good.
Hey,
that's that blue hedgehog again of all places. I found you, faker, faker. I think you're the fake hedgehog around here. You're comparing yourself to me? Ha! You're not even good enough to be my fake. I'll make you eat those words.
Beautiful.
We did it.
That was fantastic.
Well done, everyone.
We have advanced, so now we can actually jump really, really high. And on this mission, you're going to let's see some beautiful execution for that. There's a trick known as the Leap of Faith. You're going to see in a second why that is. We're going to go to the end of the level from right here. So hopefully...
Yeah, so normally there's lots of saber fights and stuff. Guess what? Double Stuker, and then really precise strafe jumping. One more Stuker to get me over here.
Yes, nice!
Nailed it! All the way to the end.
That is so insane.
Wow, dude.
Wow. Rush.
Oh, no, he has 2 Dark Jedi. What am I going to do? Wait, oh, I know exactly what I'm going to do.
Oh,
Force
yeah.
speed, roll,
Saber up the butt.
It's kind of below sea level and stuff. There are no basements in Louisiana. There shouldn't be basements in Louisiana, but lo and behold, there's a basement in Louisiana.
Louisiana Guy donates $10. Louisianan here. You are correct. There are no basements in Louisiana.
Yes, validated.
Here is $5 for knowing your Louisiana facts. I'll donate 5 more for another Louisiana fact.
Okay, so Louisiana fact number 2. These are in fact not the red-headed centipedes that are indigenous to the area. I believe they are in fact Japanese mukade instead.
It's true.
We actually have a new donation from Louisiana Guy.
Oh yeah.
He gives another $5. Louisiana Guy here. Great job with that centipede fact, but did you know they also taste great? You can add a little centipede to your gumbo with some cayenne pepper, and boy, it's tasty.
Now that's a hot Louisiana Guy is my favorite.
We have $50, but it's not going to overtake it. Luigi, $39.49. Mario, $32.36.
All right, so Luigi has officially won.
Are we calling that a winner?
Yeah.
That's it.
All right.
All right, Luigi.
Well, we'll still get to see Mario in Champions Road.
Yeah. Got to get that, what is it, $400 now?
Looks, I think so.
Oh, wait. Oh. No. No, change. Toad with 4,590.
No
Oh
way.
my God. No, what? What happened? You're joking.
Seriously.
Who gave us $4,000?
If you want to know that, there was a $4,000 donation from Isabella who says, "It's my turn."
I'm curious, like, because there are no bosses in this game. I was wondering, like, what compelled you guys to like do an escape sequence for like a finishing part of the run?
It's the most stressful thing you can do. You put a timer.
Remember that ridiculously difficult set of levels?
All right, we have $30 from Grassmaster96. Hey, BBF. Enjoying the run so far.
Hello.
Hard to believe. Hard to believe it's been almost 8 years since we met. Looking forward to the event when you get home. You know the one. And don't forget the Mega Sheep. All the best, Grassmaster96.
What? I have no idea who that guy is. I'm sorry. Okay.
It's now a good time for a couple quick donations?
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead. Cool, so we had a $50 donation from Jaguar Queen.
Oh my God.
Who says, you better get sub 120 or else you will sleep alone for a week. So the pressure's on. We also had $50 donation from Carlson and Peters, which I think is actually a Beyond Good and Evil reference. Longtime viewer, first time donating. GDQ first got me into speedrunning, and I'm excited to contribute to a great event and a great cause. I was actually a QA tester at Bethesda.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I'm looking forward to seeing the witches get destroyed, and let's destroy cancer. Nice.
Oh, no, Coco.
He won't get past me, sir.
All right, we got past that guy.
Go ahead and grab this safety checkpoint here. Yeah! But like for this level here, you wanna okay, yeah, so Woody catches on fire a little bit, and so it kind of gets really hot up in here. So yeah, and normally you want to
Killed the boss off the edge of the boat.
Goodbye, Carl.
Because of Jack's painting skills and his courage attracted Rose very much, and she loves him deeply. However, Carl didn't give up the rose. He still wants her back.
Sure. We'll go with it. We won't count the guarded hits.
Oh, that's 17 hits. Dang it. Sucker punch. Thank you. Thank you, Molded. Thank you, whoever designed the Molded. Get out of here.
Use your words.
Is he gonna despawn?
He's despawned. Yeah.
Okay.
No, he didn't.
It's for charity, Carsey.
Jamated.
Oh, this face. Watch the face she makes.
We will never be
Ugh.
a family. Then I don't need you anymore.
Oh, man.
It's gonna be close if it works.
Yeah, it's bad. Yeah, it's bad.
This is fine.
Okay.
Is it?
I might not be able to make it. I just made a bad load. I'm so sorry. God, I'm stupid. If we get enough staggers right on time. Nope. I feel so bad, dude.
Just pull up bubbles and do a console command. No one will notice.
Wow.
Honestly,
Wow.
that's not really a good idea. Does anybody know a console run? Yeah.
Nope, nobody look. Everybody close your eyes.
Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Close your eyes.
This is marathon safety.
Wait, I actually don't know the code though.
GM. I mean,
God mode enabled? Wait.
Yes. Yeah, and then just kill him.
Murder that god.
Look, the Skyrim speedrunning community is, to be fair, you have to have a very
That's the wrong dragon.
This is the worst thing I've done.
Calm down, just murder the dragon.
Okay, murder the dragon. I can do that.
Murder the dragon.
To put in perspective how off the rails this got, we have all three of us up here know this really well. We've never seen this go this pear-shaped.
Yes.
So would you say this has never happened before?
Okay.
Yes, actually.
Nobody has ever died to this enemy before. Nope.
Just speaking of the donations again, a note about the prizes available right now. There's that entry-level gaming PC.
What? What?
Oops.
Okay.
You might have to.
What are you doing?
You might have to death force.
Yep.
How did you do that?
How do you? What?
We're learning so much today. Again, I don't think that has ever happened.
And yeah. Continuing with the donation.
You got it. Got $30. $30. Okay, let's try it again. $30 from Cannon.
Oh man.
Donating between games. You have $5 from Anonymous. Here's 5 more daughters, and go fasta. I'm not going to be able to live that down, I don't think.
Nope.
We have, oh goodness, we have $50 from Prashker, who says, 50 daughters, hype! We have $5 from The Rockin' Geek. Here are 5 children, gender runner's choice. We have $5 from Shang, who says, did they give me daughters when I asked for sons?
Let's go donations.
You got it. Got 5 Donner. Donners, oh my god.
We have 5 more daughters. Let's go.
Oh, no, we have $30 from the amazing Waffle Wizard, who says, serious respect to the announcer for taking in all these lost children.
Oh man.
Here's some financial support because childcare is expensive. Thank you, Waffle Wizard. You true. $5. Oh no. $5 from Anonymous. For you Donners, I give you 5 Blitzens. I don't even know what I'm counting anymore. $50 from RPG Lovers. I would like it if you don't talk to me and my 50 sons ever again.
Should be time now. Whoops.
Soon, actually. We're going to slowly try to get it down. We're going to use our second power-up for the one and only time in the run. We're going to hit it with the heat ray, go through this teleporter in 3, 2, 1, time. Woo!
That's right. It was 36:48. Well, that's world record. That's world record, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was a world record!
Oh my god. Also, this.
A clip of this is going to end up on our speedrun.
Probably. It'll be worth it, though.
That is literally what this is. Whatever.
I don't know,
Whatever.
but Spike, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Have you tried it?
And what? What? This was not scripted. I did not know this was going to happen.
Yeah, that's cereal.
Next up, we have a question from the one and only Brosentia, who asks, what's your opinion of Blaster Master 2, the greatest Blaster Master game of all time?
Wait, they made a Blaster Master 2?
Anyways, here's
Now I'm going to do a glitch called Ocarina Items, where I catch something in a bottle, and I can use it to play a fake ocarina. I didn't save.
No.
You should have reminded me to save.
I forgot.
Why did you do that? Hope you like Deku Tree.
Oh my god.
Soil. I think it varies from like, fastest versus slowest is like 7 seconds, maybe more actually. And with 9 soft soil. Oh my god. Okay, so I'm supposed to do a mega flip down just to save a little bit of time, and that Cuckoo was in a very bad place. It's not really that big.
Oh my god, monk ass.
It's not really that big of a deal. I just have to go down here.
More exciting.
And yeah, it just isn't really working properly. So I can use this to show off what a weird shot looks like. So weird shotting looks really weird. Link's legs are not having a good time. But that's not all. Weird shots get weirder. And this time, Link's face gets super messed up. So Link has 5 mouths now. No eyes, no eyebrows.
Yikes.
Hope you guys sleep well tonight.
So now, so I had the Stuker concussion rifle, but if I switched my weapon to the lightsaber right as I'm entering this cutscene, no, this totally looks normal. No, it's okay. I can still do this. Yep. All right.
Please give this to me.
There we
Thank
go.
Nice. I had a panic moment there. That happened to ESA. I don't want it to happen again. And skipping the boss via an unintended glitch like this makes this happen?
It replaces Sybil's model with the Shadow Baby. Or that's what I call him.
And Harry has
He's got a moment.
Sybil.
Snap out of it.
Snap out of it. What's going on?
Sybil.
Harry doesn't know.
Don't talk.
I'll take care of
I'm
you.
not talking because I don't really have words for that. And then it just clears up as soon as that cutscene's done. That has no
Everything's back
lasting
to
effects
normal.
on the game whatsoever.
Good?
Yeah? Okay. So now you're going to do left start again?
I don't think I pressed left. Can I just unpause and it's
yeah,
okay?
if you did not press left and you paused, it's okay. Just press
Okay.
start and you're good. Yeah. Sounds good. You're getting this really fast. You're getting this really fast.
Oh my
I
God.
didn't have time to explain what I was going to explain. Just keep doing it.
I'll do it
Just
again.
keep going. Just keep going, dude. You're in there. Oh my. What? I didn't even explain what to do.
This game's easy, man. I've seriously never seen it before in my
You're literally
life.
the fastest person to ever get it. You're literally the fastest person to ever get it.
That doesn't mean I'm... Okay. I've literally never seen the game before.
So...
If you know the words, sing along.
It's the Star Song, the funky Star Song. It's the Star Song, that funky Star Song.
And then it's going to cut the credits. So that is time. So I would like to say just one thing, or maybe a couple of things. This, having done these two, I've now done 6 Games Done Quick runs, which I'm very proud of. And those are ranging from a third-person shooter, character action games, Metroidvanias, and platformers. Pretty wide variety. And so while there is a lot that I can't do, there's a heck of a lot that I can do, and that's what I like to focus on. And I hope you'll do the same for yourself.
All right, guys, thank you very much. One more big shout out to all of our commentators over there. They've done a lot of work getting this ready. But before we get started, we have a special donation to read. We have $5,000 from Voyagen. Thank you very much, Voyagen, for that generous donation. And he says, apologies in advance for the wall of text. I found speedrunning by watching AGDQ 2013. 8 months before that, my dad had undergone surgery for prostate cancer, so I was immediately drawn to the event and the cause. Since joining the community, I've made countless friends across the world and experienced things I'd never thought I'd be able to experience. This race represents the pinnacle of my speedrun career so far, but I know that there's no limit to how much further I can go with this hobby. In December, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. Fortunately, it was detected early and her prognosis is good. I can't tell you how important early detection and prevention have been in the lives of my family. Win or lose today, I'm proud to be here with my friends. I'm proud to support an incredibly important cause with my time and money. Thank you so much, Voyagen.
Wow.
All right, so we're up to 2 million.
2 million. Got it.
2,261,823.19 plus whatever guys is donating right now. And for those keeping track at home, that does put us in first place.
The trial to survive for the day we see new light. I give my life not for